Welcome, everyone, to episode 47 of the Looks Like a Movie podcast. My name is Kevin. I'm here with Doug and Owen, and today we've got a lot to cover. We're going to be talking about Ferrari, Poor Things, and we're going to be going through a bunch of topics concerning 2023 movies to wrap the year up. But first, we can do our little what we watched this week and keep it short because I imagine you guys also both watched mostly 2023 movies this week that we may or may not talk about. I watched 5 movies between Christmas Eve and Christmas. That's really the only non-2023 stuff that I watched. I rewatched Umbrellas of Cherbourg because I got the Criterion and I loved it. It's really good. I cried a bunch. It was awesome. I watched Happiest Season with Kristen Stewart. Not a very good movie, but Kristen Stewart is very likable.
Such many cases of that.
Right. I mean, the romance is just, we don't have to get into it, but the romance at the center of the rom-com is not all that romantic. Let's just say that. And then speaking of, I watched Love Actually on Christmas, which is just not a good movie. Like, people love that movie, and it's like, one of our Christmas classics. It kind of sucks. Like, yeah, that's just bad Christmas movie. And then good Christmas movies. I, for the first time in my life, finally watched It's a Wonderful Life on Christmas. Just like the greatest movie ever made. I don't know why I'd never watched it, but it's like perfect. And I sobbed for like the entire last 20 minutes of the movie and then kept crying after it ended. And I was like, oh, yeah, I mean, it makes sense that people like this as much as they do. So that was my week. Doug, would you like to go?
Hi guys. What's up? How are y'all doing?
Well, I'm doing great.
I watched how far back are we going? Okay. I watched
a week, just 7, just count to 7.
Got it. I watched Gran Turismo with my parents.
Nice.
And we're talking.
It made my
Movie of the
mom.
year?
Actually, don't tell us what you thought too much because
we know it's going to come up later in the episode.
Yeah,
it's gonna. Yeah, we're gonna talk about
best scenes of the year is gonna be the Gran Turismo racing scenes.
Which one? What do you mean the racing scene?
Okay. I mean, like the last one. Like the one at the. Never mind.
When they do the 24-hour of Le Mans.
Yeah, just like the biggest race in the movie.
And they crash.
Well, there is
a crash. There's multiple crashes in the movie.
Yeah.
Anyway. I also watched Ford v Ferrari,
which you did not like as much, which made me sad, but I get it.
And movie's mid as fuck. The movie is mid as hell. Holy shit.
I can relate.
I watched Birds, starring Bradley Cooper playing Chef. It's a bizarre film. Can't recommend it.
Did you watch that as like a post Maestro kind of I want more Bradley Cooper thing, or was that?
Yeah, because I really, spoiler alert, guys, I like Maestro a lot.
Yeah. Well, that's gonna come up later in the episode, of course, but
I so like I was like, oh, like, Bradley Cooper is like a real ass fucking actor, and then I put on Burnt, and I was like, what a bizarre film. what a strange. It's not good.
Wait, have you still not seen A Star Is Born?
Nope.
But he went to this other random movie.
So A Star Is Born is probably good.
I mean, like, it's not even about whether it's good or not. I just feel like it's like the natural move since like Maestro's getting Oscar buzz and A Star Is Born is his only other movie that he's directed. I just feel like that seems like a place that you would go to.
The thing with A Star Is Born is that it looks very uninteresting to me. It looks fucking boring.
I think it's
in concept.
Fun's not the right word. I really enjoyed it back when I watched it years ago. I cried in the theater like 10 times.
And then other than that, me and Owen watched a couple movies together, and I watched a couple movies to prep for this pod. That's it.
All right, Owen, you want to go then?
Yeah, so me and Doug watched Heat, and we watched The Man Who Killed Don Quixote. Both kind of bouncing off a movie that came out recently that was really good. I also I got the broad.
You don't have to like hide the movie. Like you can name the movie even if we're gonna talk about it later.
I forgot. Yeah, so I got the Brockage Criterion, so I was kind of just going through that, so I watched a lot of that mainly. And I just
There's
been
two
I
of
watched
them,
a
right?
few.
No, it's
Like,
like
there's
one.
well, there's like two
It's just a big set.
rockets,
There's
right?
3 discs.
No, but when I
on
was
the
okay, so I was like, because I just bought a bunch of Criterions for Christmas, and I was like, I went on their website and went through like the entire catalog to kind of like pick the ones that I wanted to get, and there was like 2 separate Brockage ones with seemingly different shorts in them.
There's 2 volumes. If you get the Blu-ray, they just come in one big, thick thing, though.
Yeah.
But like,
Okay.
I think you can get the volumes separately on DVD. Sounds
Yeah,
right.
you might be able
Sounds
to
right.
get like less of it, but there's just like one with all of them on it with like 3
Right.
discs.
It's just like 9 hours of stuff.
Right.
I watched the box. I listened to the box director commentary on Christmas of the
And who directed that one?
Richard Kelly. They go. It's a Christmas movie. And then I've been watching some Paul Morrissey films and some just Warhol stuff. But that's quick, simple little week.
Right. Okay. Well, since Owen didn't want to spoil the title of the movie, let's talk about Michael Mann's new film, Ferrari. You could have said the title because we're talking about it a minute after.
Ferrari.
But, yeah, let's start with Ferrari, a movie that all 3 of us really liked.
True. That's true. Yeah. So, Ferrari. You need some scene dressing for Ferrari. This is a movie that Michael Mann has been trying to make for like a really long time, since like before Black Hat. He was trying to make Ferrari. A lot of different people were involved with it. He like originally it was supposed to be Christian Bale was supposed to play Ferrari. Then Christian Bale didn't play Ferrari, and then it was like in 2017, right around like when Black Hat came out. It was like, what's his name? Hugh Jackman and
Right.
Noomi
Rapace.
Rapace, yeah, from Prometheus fame. Like they were signed on to play, and I have to say it. Thankfully, that didn't happen.
Yeah, not a movie. Also, you guys can confirm, because I don't remember if I got this correctly, but didn't the writer of this movie die like 14 years ago?
Yeah. The writer, the guy that wrote the Ferrari screenplay.
The script was written like 20 years ago.
That's the
I mean, I imagine they obviously made like adjustments, like Michael Mann obviously probably went in and changed things, but
because I think that it was like, because I think that Christian Bale was supposed to come on and play it in like the early 2000s. It was like before that didn't happen.
Would you have disliked that one as much as Hugh Jackman, or would you have been okay with the Christian Bale Ferrari?
No, I mean, listen, guys. I don't know. We like they got it this time. Like they got the right kind of movie with what we got. It was this was supposed to be a Adam Driver, Penelope Cruz movie, and that's what we got. This movie. I mean,
we start there. Then you guys want to talk about Adam Driver?
Yeah, no, this is one of the best performances of the year. This was fucking awesome.
I agree. Yeah, very much so. I guess we can dispel the myth that the accents matter, or that's something that bothers people. Adam Driver's really good. like so good. It's like one of like the movie star performances of the year. Just like just like a capital S star.
Yeah. Adam Driver is one of the great actors. Just period. Just that's a full sentence. He's one of the great actors. Like this is. It's like he's playing. It's like so because Adam Driver, he's 40 years old playing 60 years old. Total transformation.
He looks huge, by the way. Like on the screen, he's like giant.
Yeah, and
which I think costuming went into that as well, right? Like they specifically with the like the pants he wears or whatever.
Yeah, he wears like giant like pull up pants, right? But it's like he just he looks huge on screen, and he just is complete control of like every of everything. Whenever he's on screen, every scene that he's in, he's just in total control. Everything that Enzo says is like him manipulating another person. Everything that and he's like never like flustered. He's like frustrated, right? But he's never like uncomposed. And he's just like always in control. Like even like in moments where like, oh, somebody fucking dies, and he's just like, it is what it is. Or like they fucking like the time that you see him like the most frustrated is like when they lose a race. He's like, and then when
Yeah.
he fucking when his wife, there's one scene where they like him and his wife argue, or he yells back, but even then it's like he's kind of like composed and in control.
Yeah.
It's
I mean, it's very like very composed during that scene pretty like early on when he visits his son's grave, like not like later in the movie, but the first
Yeah.
time that he does it. I really like that part. And also speaking of like, I guess introduction stuff, I love like, I mean, I thought Penelope Cruz was so good. I think like if when it comes down to it, the Oscar nominations come around, which like this is likely the case, but I think it'll be one of the major snubs if she doesn't get a Best Supporting Actress nomination. I mean, she's just like fantastic. And her introduction, like the fact that, because watching the trailer, and this isn't a spoiler, and we're going to talk about spoilers anyway, but like people have seen the trailer. Watching the trailer, I thought that the scene where she like pulls a gun on him would happen like at like a pretty climactic moment. It's like the first time that she's on screen, she just comes into the movie and pulls a gun on. I mean, it fucking rocks. Like just immediately I was like, oh, this is just the best thing. Like I love her.
The trailer is incredible, like one of the best trailers of this year. Like really, really amazing trailer. But like it is so misleading. It is so misleading.
Right? Because
like,
I thought it was going to be like like I thought we were going to gradually watch their kind of like faltering, and it was going to be this back and forth. It's like no, she knows what's going on from the beginning of the movie.
The trailer makes it seem like Adam Driver's son died in a car accident that he was responsible for, and then Penelope Cruz pulls a gun on him because of it. That's what the trailer makes it look like, right? Like, that's not what happens in the movie.
Well, Driver also wakes up in Woodley's bed. Like they're starting right away with that kind of hole in that marriage, and we're not gradually going up to anything. We're in the middle of it already. We're kind of in that from the jump.
Absolutely.
I mean, there's a lot of story to tell, so I mean, starting there is it seems to be the wise decision. I mean, we're getting the necessary information from their past through certain ways, but I think starting there is kind of the effective way to go throughout it.
And do you want to talk about Shailene Woodley for like
I was saying
seconds?
while we're on the subject of performances before we get into anything else, it might be smart because this is like a movie, a trio movie. I mean, it's 3 big performances, and Shailene Woodley is kind of the I guess.
I have I have a blazing hot take about Shailene Woodley and Ferrari.
I might agree with you, but
she's totally fine. He's like totally fine.
I think her. Listen, people aren't wrong about the accent being bad. Like it just is. I don't really think that's up for debate. I mean, there's even like several moments where like she just loses the accent and sounds like Shailene Woodley. It's like kind of really distracting, but I think like ultimately it means very little. Like I don't think it bothered me all that much.
It's really not that important enough.
I can see why somebody would like care that much about that stuff, but I feel like if you come out of the movie and you're like, that was a bad movie because their accents sucked, then like maybe you weren't really watching the movie.
She's like never on screen by herself. She doesn't really have anything to do. It's like every time she's on like talking, she's talking to Enzo, like she's talking like acting against Adam Driver. It's like she never really has to carry anything herself, and like the accent work is bad in the sense like she does not sound Italian, and she has way more of like a Midwestern thing going on with her voice. But it's like people were saying how it's like one of the worst performances of the year, and how she's also like super miscast. And I'm not joking, I sat down for a half hour the other day and I just looked at like all of the other actors in her age range, like all of the other actors in their early 30s, like white actresses in their early 30s, and I'm like, who would have been better? And I'm like, there's not like a definitive like 100% these people were better for the part, like
I'm sure maybe somebody could have been better.
Like
I don't think
Ronan is a better actress and would have been better, right? But it's like I'm not saying like, oh, like the movie's broken because we didn't get somebody like that,
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it matters all
Yeah,
that
it
much.
doesn't.
And the one thing I did say was that, like, I don't know if I mentioned this in the video I made or not, but I think it's very fortunate that she's never in a scene with Penelope Cruz. That would have made it more distracting, I think, if you could compare their performances at the same time while they're talking to each other. But luckily, they never, spoiler, never never meet each other. um so like that to me would have probably maybe made a difference. I don't know if you guys agree, but like I think if I had to see Penelope Cruz giving one of the best performances of the year next to Shailene Woodley, I might be a little bit more annoyed about it. But
the the Shailene Woodley stuff just feels like okay. This is okay. I don't want this pod to just be me being like Ferrari is good and all the criticism of it is dumb. It's actually
right,
like so like you
right.
can't criticize it, but that's what I'm saying because the Shailene Woodley criticism also feels aligned with people talking about the fucking CGI, which also I'm here to say it. It's totally fine. It doesn't
Right.
matter. Like
I mean, it's not a very big budget movie, is it?
it is. This movie
Oh,
is
is it?
fucking
Okay.
yeah.
What
It's
is
like
it?
a
90?
yeah. It's like 90.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
it's a pretty big budget movie for a movie about a guy, you know.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. 95 million. Okay.
But it's like
The CGI
it's
is fine.
the issue with the CGI is like it doesn't look real. It's not invoking realism. So, but part of that is like okay, would you have liked it if the fuck it spoiler
Talk about the
yeah
big.
we're talking
Yeah.
about the spoiler. This is the climactic scene of the fucking
We're going
movie.
to talk about the scene multiple times on this podcast, probably.
Yeah.
Not only
Like
during Ferrari coverage,
Yeah,
but
so like people talking about like oh the CGI doesn't look realistic. So like oh for you like would you like the fucking slaughter of all these fucking kids to look as real as possible? You know like what are we
Yeah,
talking about?
yeah.
Like
Well, it's all,
Um,
I don't know. It's an odd thing to be like. I guess it asks it's a question that I won't really get an answer to on this podcast, but I guess I'm asking the people who think that was the moment of like the death, like the sudden and quick and instant death of all these people, not effective because of the CGI not being like up to your kind of
right.
standards.
Because I think
That
it's one of
scene
the
is
most
so
effective moments in any movie all year. Like it's,
yeah.
I mean, I wanted to talk about it specifically because, and I was going to ask you guys how it went in your theater, but when I saw it in my theater, it was like I have never like
Yeah.
experienced a reaction at the dude. I said I texted this to my friend, which is a very bad taste thing to say on this podcast, but I'm gonna make a very bad taste joke for the people who get offended by something like this. It literally felt like the people in my theater had just seen 9/11 happen. Like,
what?
I'm not kidding, dude. Bro. The reaction in my theater was so significant. Like I have never, dude. It's like I thought it sounded like someone pulled a gun out in the theater and like shot it off, dude. Like, dude, bro, people in my theater like yelled, dude. Like, I've never seen anything like it. Like, it was so you could like feel it like in the room. I was like, I thought I just watched like I thought those children really died on the screen, dude. I was like, this is like what like it was.
Rose,
I swear I've never seen it. Like I'm so serious. I've never seen a theater reaction like that in my life, dude. Like nobody, no crowd in any theater I've ever been in has reacted that way, dude. I don't know if they just like because of
so bro okay let's recap. So Kevin is saying that the climactic car crash in Ferrari directed by Michael Mann is on par with like emotional significance as real life 9/11.
Okay, first of all, let's not phrase it like that because this is a real life tragedy. Like this isn't a made up thing that happened for Ferrari. Like people really died. Like
but
this
it's
was
also
a real,
like it's a movie
this was a
though
real
like
accident. No, I'm aware, but like this is a real thing that happened to people. Like let's not compare the two. Like they just fucking like it's a made up car crash in a movie. Like this people really died in real life.
I was reading about the movie on like I was reading about like the events of the movie on Wikipedia afterwards, and it's like this erase like the Milete or whatever, is like, yeah, this was the last year this race happened.
Is it really?
Yeah, the race did not happen
dude.
after this.
There's
Well, the
no
thing
way
is,
they like run
the
it back next season.
the
Bro.
context that I think is important. I know we're laughing about it, but the context that I think is important for how my theater reacted. That obviously, if you're listening to the podcast and you haven't seen Ferrari, then you've just had it spoiled for you. So hopefully that's not the case. But
Yeah, and
I
if you
think
haven't seen it and
most
you're
people-
confused, what
yeah.
happens is like there's a crash so there's a crash, right? Obviously, but like they're doing this 24-hour race, like this really long endurance race,
right, like across multiple countries or whatever.
Yeah, it's like super. Yeah, the races like this still exist, but like this specific one doesn't happen. But it's like it happens on like back roads and shit is where parts of the race take place. And one of Ferrari's drivers' cars hits like a bump that causes like gives it a flat tire, and a bunch of like spectators, like a bunch of like fucking little kids and like parents and stuff are watching on the side of the road, and the car just flattens them. The car just does a flip and
just
like
launches right at them.
Flies up, hits a pole, ricochets off, and just like takes out an entire
insane.
Like,
kills like 30 people.
You get this little scene,
I think it's like 8 people, but it looked so much worse on
no.
screen. Because they say the number after, and they're like 9 people died, and a bunch of people are injured. I was like, dude, when I was watching it, I was like 50 people just died. Like,
yeah, I know. It feels like they just killed like an entire city. Like,
yeah,
and like the shot afterwards, there's like a guy with his fucking eyeball hanging out of his face.
Yeah.
And like,
no, he's
but
got no legs. Too.
But what I was gonna say is I think the reason why my theater reacted the way they did, which I imagine was probably the reaction for a lot of people in a lot of theaters, is that people don't like know that this happened. I don't think people knew this true story really. Like it's like a significant tragedy that nobody really knows. I mean, obviously it's been a very long time since it happened. If you're not somebody who follows maybe like the world of racing, then you certainly haven't heard about it. So like, I don't think anybody was expecting that to be the result of the crash, even if you saw the trailer, because like in the trailer you were like, oh, it's tragic enough if the racer dies.
The car hit the pole, and no, like I didn't see it, but maybe someone said it online, but like it's a real story, so it's like people could have known like, oh, that's what that is, because there was plenty of discussion of that specific shot being like, oh, the CGI looks weird here, but no one online that I saw at least was like, hey, this scene might actually be like the death of like multiple people,
right?
Which is like, it's like, you know, in something like Oppenheimer or something, which is like a more, you know, obviously more well-known thing. It's like people knew kind of the way that the story was going to go a little because it like happened, and this happened as well, but it's just kind of it being lesser known. People kind of went into it more blind.
And also, like, this is it's funny. It's funny that I bring this up because Doug just mentioned it. But there's like in Gran Turismo this year, there was also a car crash scene that killed people in the audience.
Yeah, also very shocking.
I think of a reason to bring it up and maybe talk more about the character of Ferrari is that in the Gran Turismo scene, a big problem with it is that like there's the whole mental thing of like how that affects a driver, like knowing that they have killed another person because of their accident. But like in this, obviously the driver passes away, and then the whole thing is like the press.
Wait, so in Gran Turismo, the driver kills people and he's still alive?
Yes.
Yeah. So in Gran Turismo, he's like racing, whatever, and he does like 10 races or whatever in the movie. And in one of the races, he like his car, like basically what happens, something similar than Ferrari happens, where his car flies up. Flies up the track and does
it's the lead. It's the lead guy.
Yeah, it's the lead guy. Yeah,
the main character. Yeah. And that, I mean, also a true story. Like that also really happened. But yeah, like, you know, I think it's worth bringing up because obviously like that takes the route of like looking at like the mental toll, and like, you know, Ferrari, much different character, and how the response to, you know, a tragedy like this.
He's in the hospital, and then the David Harbour, like his coach, comes in and he's like, somebody died. And then like the kid starts crying and he's like, it's not your fault, you know, like it's you know, racing's dangerous, it's not your fault. And in Ferrari's like, this wasn't my fault, but if you need a scapegoat here, if you need to make it my fault, make it my fucking fault, but this isn't my, you know, it's like,
I don't know. And I think it's you know, like we could talk about the character at large if you want. Like, obviously.
Well, I mean, character at one of the largest figures in
Okay, well,
history.
that's all.
You know, like his shadow looms so large. Even in it's funny watching Ford v Ferrari after watching Ferrari, and there's who's the guy that plays the Punisher? What's his name? John.
Oh, John Bernthal.
Yeah, John Bernthal. Like he has a line in fucking Ford v Ferrari where he's talking to Henry Ford II, who gets brought up in Ferrari. But he's talking to Henry Ford II in Ford v Ferrari, and he says, Enzo Ferrari is going to go down as the greatest, as the greatest automotive engineer in history, or something, or he has the greatest car manufacturer in history. And I'm like, yeah, hell yeah, brother. You know,
Hell yeah. So that's the part of Ford v Ferrari that you like.
Yeah, I like the part where he talks about how cool Enzo Ferrari is.
Yeah, crazy that we got 2 Ferrari movies in the span of like what
Well,
I don't know when that movie came out, like 4 years.
Yeah, but he's the bad guy in that.
Right. Anyway, let's circle back to Ferrari. Let's get back
Right.
on.
Yeah.
Are there other scenes you guys want to talk about, or what? You know.
Well, like the movie is very good.
Of course, yeah, we've covered that part.
So like it covers like it is calling it a biopic feels disingenuous because it really is about this race. It is about this very specific moment in time. It's not it's not birth to death, obviously, but it's not even like something like Maestro, where Maestro is about like the last,
like specific parts of his life.
Yeah, but Maestro covers like 20 years of his life or something.
Right.
But like, this covers like 6 months of Enzo Ferrari's life. And it's like, Ferrari, they're having a hard time. And it's like kind of, I'm gonna be honest, a really chaotic 6 months. And this would be a crazy 6 months in anybody's life, because it's like, oh, his like
he's mourning the loss of his son.
He's mourning the loss of his son. His wife finds out about his mistress. His car company's about to go bankrupt. One of his drivers dies. Another one of his drivers dies. He kills a bunch of people in this race. He wins this race. Like it's psychotic. All the things that happen in such a short amount of time. Very much like very worthy of a movie. One of those things where like I could see Michael Mann like reading about Enzo Ferrari, because he's like really into like racing and stuff, and like getting into the history of this and being like, yeah, I mean, I got to make a movie about this, like. Speaking of which, Michael Mann.
Mann, right? Yeah, I was going to say
Michael Mann. Have you seen?
Oh, sorry. You could say what you're going to say.
Have you seen Black Hat, Kevin?
I have not seen Black Hat. I've seen this movie, Heat, Thief, and Miami Vice. But I imagine that sometime fairly early into 2024, I will have completed Michael Mann's filmography. I want to watch them all.
All the major, like probably not his like TV movies and stuff, but like all the
like feature films.
So my biggest full disclosure, I love Black Hat. Ferrari is better than Black Hat, but when watching Ferrari, because I knew like there were because we had people that saw Ferrari at New York Film Festival and were like either didn't like it or like were like pretty like lukewarm on it, right? And when I watched Ferrari, and neither of those people that we knew have seen Black Hat, right? But when I watched Ferrari, I was like, oh, this is a movie made like this is the same director as Black Hat. Like this feels like the guy that made Black Hat made a Ferrari movie. And I was like, it's kind of weird, but it's like people that like weren't expecting this or thought this was going to be something different, just like were not in the like Michael Mann sauce, like because this is so digital filmmaking, this is so like weird editing, this is so like bizarre fucking creative choices. Like people are talking about how awesome the sound design is in Ferrari. I'm like,
that's what I was going to mention, because
it's bizarre sound design. It's fucking weird.
Because I was going to ask if you guys saw it with that, because you went to see it early, right, Doug?
Yeah, I saw it at the Dolby.
Had, like, the Dolby, kind of. It wasn't the most interesting interview because it kind of was like a Dolby.
They're just sucking Dolby's dick.
Almost. Yeah, the whole thing is kind of just 5 minutes of them being like, Dolby's really fucking cool. Like everybody should watch movies in Dolby, which like, I mean, yeah, you should. Like it rocks, but there was like stuff in there. I mean, they're talking about the sound mostly, which is why I was going to bring it up. But
Yeah. This, how do you guys feel about the sound design? Because that is like a big thing that people are bringing up, because it is bizarre. It is like, when I saw it in Dolby, I was like, are the fucking speakers blown out? Like, I
Yeah.
was like, just because, and not because like, not because it was like super loud necessarily, but because like some of like the
Oh, it
way
was
that
very
some of the
loud.
voices are mixed, I was like, why does it sound like this? It's like, I'm not even saying it's bad, but it's like, it doesn't sound like any other movie this year. It is the most uniquely
Yeah.
sounding movie. And for like,
Well, the killer's pretty unique.
the killer is unique, but like the killer sounds normal, you know. It's
Sure.
like they're doing
Okay.
a lot of interesting stuff with like the mixing,
Right.
but in this one it's like their fucking voices are blown out, you know. It's like, and it's like, it's, I don't know, it's fucking,
Yeah,
it's really, it's like,
I guess I didn't really think about the voices. I did think that during the racing scenes, it was just like, I mean, you could not escape. You could like fucking put earplugs in and it would be just as loud. Like it was like,
yeah.
which I liked. I mean, I didn't have like, I think that kind of rocks. Like it literally felt like, obviously not literally, but it was like being at a race. Like it was like, listening to cars fly by your like fly by right in front of you. I thought that part was really cool.
Yeah, no, like the, oh, man, one of the best scenes of the year is when they're in mass and all of them pull out their stopwatches, because the guy from Maserati shows up to the town in Italy to break their single lap record. That is so cool. And then all of them like are like walking out, and they're like, "Oh, Enzo, when are we gonna get the record back?" And he's like, "Right now." Um,
Very like Godfather edit of like the cutting back from the church to the race.
yeah,
That I really
this
like that whole
this
thing.
movie is definitely in conversation with The Godfather for sure. Like very much like, well, it's kind of interesting how like Michael Mann and Coppola actually do just like kind of exist in the same space a little bit, even though Coppola is obviously older and was a part of a film movement before Michael Mann really
Yeah,
was making movies. But like people, the Heat is also very Godfather too.
yeah.
Um, so it's interesting how they kind of end up together. We just watched The Heat; it's on mine, but like
Yeah,
we both
right.
end
Well,
up
we could talk
together.
about it a little bit because, like, I think specifically, like, one of the things that makes Man unique is that he makes movies that are almost exclusively about the same kind of character, like the same kind of person, and um, how like their pursuit of whatever they do in whatever Michael Mann movie, how that affects the people around them. Obviously, it has effects in this movie. Um, it's worth
People
talking about. It's worth comparing.
because people always talk about how Michael Mann, or people always identify, I want to say, that Michael Mann makes like boy movies. Like Michael Mann makes very like movies about men being cool and doing stuff. But
Right.
all of his movies are really about how like masculinity is bad, and like kind of like,
Right.
and
No,
like
did you see the
um
one like who was it that had like the top review for this movie that was like surprise Michael Mann made a
oh
movie about how masculinity is a prison.
yeah, that's it was David Sims,
Yeah. I was like that,
critic for the Atlantic.
yeah, that I mean that that review was like I read that after watching the movie and I was like this is the funniest like that's like a top tier letterbox one liner. I thought that was so funny, but it's true. Like, yeah, I mean, they're all,
Yeah, because it's about like, I mean, Ferrari is about like, we talk about how like he's so powerful, such a big, powerful man that like controls the room all the time. But really, it's like, and he's like, he's striving for greatness, right? But really,
yeah,
it's about like his um he can't communicate properly
yeah,
with the women in his life. He's a dangerous guy that's like, he's talking to other men and being like, you have to be a real man to die. You have to go out there and be a fucking man, and you have to die. And it's like,
yeah.
Yeah.
bro, you're not even
He's
like, you can't even
he's
look at your,
directly like leading people to their deaths like
Yeah,
multiple
yeah.
and it's like that
times.
and that obsession, like that. I mean, that's you guys brought up Heat, like it's like that, like these characters' obsessions with like these things that they're pursuing, and Ferrari, and then like something like Heat, where it's like he has to at the very end of the movie,
Yeah.
turn back and get revenge rather than just like he has
He
a
did
clear
die
he
in
has a
that
clear
movie.
path
Yeah.
to but like Michael Mann's characters won't do that,
Yeah.
and like that would render like everything about the character useless. Like
They're too in it to even like think with a clear head.
Yeah.
yeah,
No, Michael Mann loves a toxic man that like just cannot give like doesn't know when to stop.
There's no
Yeah.
escape.
exactly. Yeah, so I think it's a good point that you bring that up actually, because it's like, yeah, it's obviously they're on the surface interpreted as, like, for lack of a better term, like boy movies, like, but obviously, like, they're not really. None of those guys are usually all that good. Like, if anything, it's, for a lot of for any other audience, you could, watch them and point at the screen and be like, oh, that's wrong. Like, it's like that guy is too obsessed with this stuff. So I don't know. Yeah, that's a good point to bring that up. Do you
Yeah.
guys want to? What were you gonna say?
Well, I was gonna say it's like, Owen, is there anything else that you wanted to make sure we talk about
Yeah.
with Ferrari?
I'm gonna talk about this a little later, but Patrick Dempsey, I mentioned this to Doug
Right.
yesterday, but he does all of his racing in this movie, and
So cool.
he was very adamant on being in this movie, and he's not like a big role or anything. He's like one of Ferrari's racers, and he ends up winning the
One of the
race.
best guys of the year.
But
in this
he
I
movie.
also
rules
love his
it.
moment when he like picks up the guy from the other
Yeah.
from was it his Maserati or whatever. He's like, "You want to ride back?" And then the
Yeah,
dude's
yeah.
like pissed off. He's like,
No,
"Why'd
and
you pick him up?
the
You should have
Maserati.
walked."
Yeah, it's like you're like no go in a Ferrari car. You gotta walk there. No, I think just Patrick Dempsey is really cool that he's in this movie. I'll talk about him later, but I think the fact that he, drives separate from acting, and he's really into that, and him able to kind of bring his other talents to the screen here, is a really cool like fun fact for.
Hasn't
Ferrari.
he also like placed or won like some big like
Yeah, no,
notable
he's like
races?
a legit like racer. I don't know too much about it. I know like Michael Fassbender was pretty inspired by his like, ability to live two lives almost and be able to
Yeah.
do like all the things he wanted to do. So I think it's really cool that he's in not only in this movie but doing all the racing for it.
Right. Is there anything else that we want to touch on then before we move on to Poor Things?
They so the cars that they use in Ferrari all cost like $30 million now. Like they're all like super like insane collector's items, right? Like the real life cars, I mean. So like
Right.
they couldn't actually use like the real life like old like vintage Ferraris or anything. So they had to make replicas and use like CGI moments too. But like for a lot of the racing stuff, they made replica cars, put on like attachable cameras to the cars, and then had the cars going like 100 miles per hour. And it's
Yeah,
like
shit
I
rocks,
I
dude.
think that like obviously there's a way to do it fake, right? And like most and like
Sure.
all other racing movies do it like fake, where they're not actually attaching cameras to cars going 100 miles per hour. But it's like something about the racing in Ferrari feels so fucking insane. So, like feels so like fast that like other movies just don't really capture. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm excited for the one that gets on digital just to be able to rewatch those little racing moments over and over.
Yeah.
Because they're not like it's a long movie and they're not like the whole movie, but those scenes, it'd be fun to just play those over and over again because they're really, magical.
Yeah, I mean the third act of Ferrari is fucking like some of the most heart pounding
Oh yeah.
like stuff of the year for sure.
Well, I thought it
Yeah.
was interesting because that that big scene where all these people die. The first time you watch it, it comes out of kind of nowhere, and then for me on second watch, it was almost that entire race. You're just kind of waiting for all these people to die. So it was a very different experience of like, watching them race, knowing like, oh, all these people are just going to get smoked. I thought it was a like different kind of experience that I thought it almost enhanced the racing where like I knew this was about to come in. It's definitely a different experience just getting blindsided by this like devastating moment. But
Yeah,
the watching them all race, knowing like this race is about to lead to the death of like children, is definitely a different way to experience the movie.
I while watching the movie, it's funny. I knew something was gonna happen.
Yeah.
Right, like I didn't know that like it was gonna happen like it did, but I knew something was going to happen because I know there was a clip of the second of a car crash in the trailer that just had not happened yet, and like
Yeah.
we were like the race was like really kind of like building up and building up, and like the tension was rising, and I'm like,
Right.
oh fuck.
Well, so yeah,
You know?
Also,
I did
the
think of that.
way. Sorry, you could go on.
Oh, well, similar thing. I was like, when the racing was happening, I was like, oh, I remembered when he bounces off that pole, and I was just, okay, when is this gonna happen? But I just the fact that it like, oh, here it is, and then boom, all those people get wiped out. It still is just like shit. Like it's just a devastating kind of gut punch, really.
Yeah.
I wanted to no, the thing I wanted to mention is like the way that it happens, like with the thing in the road, like the
Yeah.
actual buildup, like when it slows down and you see it happen, is such a good moment. Like that, obviously the actual aftermath of the crash is what we're gonna think about. But I love that whole thing. Like seeing that thing come in the road, I was like, oh my god, like this is
Yeah.
like the scene where
Well,
it
it's shot so
happens.
well because he's driving, and then it closes. It like gets a not a close up, but it's like a closer shot on that little
Right.
thing. And like because there's one before he hits it. There's like the one before, and you're like, oh, what is that? And then then another one comes and he hits it, and it's the slow mo, and then it's just
Yeah,
really
it's just
well
so good.
executed. Man's really impressive here with the camera.
And total mastery.
Total,
Like,
well, it kind of mimics kind of Ferrari's kind of control, because I think Man's he's so in control here. I love the quick moments of that family that we get right before they just get massacred. Because what's his name? Shriver has talked about this on some interviews and a lot, but it's really about just like setting up character, because there's so much of this movie that's like you set up the driver that ends up dying. You're setting up all these people, so you see, like, if they're not just like you're seeing car crashes without unnamed faces. You get that little moment of that family, so you have even like a moment with them before they die, just to kind of get that these are real people that actually died, and I think it's really effective in that way emotionally.
Okay, I guess we move on to Poor Things then. Another movie that all three of us really liked. Another one of the best movies of the year, I think we could say pretty confidently.
End of the year strong for sure.
Yeah, how like well versed are you guys in the films of Yorgos Lanthimos? How many have you guys seen prior to watching Poor Things?
I think me and Owen have both only seen Killing of Sacred Deer like a
right?
while ago.
And then you
Yeah.
haven't watched any of those.
It's
Interesting.
been years.
Because that's the one out of his 5 major movies that I haven't seen. I imagine it still has like his same kind of dark, fucked up comedy, but that's like
That one's
more.
pretty dark.
That one's more like kind of like not scary, but like that's like a more.
It's more sinister than this one for sure.
Right. Yeah, I mean, Killing of a Sacred Deer is just all about like like the climactic moment at the end of the Killing of a Sacred Deer is like you hand 12-year-old Barry Keoghan, who's playing a 12-year-old, and they're like, you gotta kill. Anyways,
no, but like, so that one's not as much like there's not as much comedy in that movie.
Right? No, I mean there is. It's okay. Funny. It's like it's very fucked up and sinister, but it's like he's
I was just trying to gauge because that's essentially his whole kind of brand across like all 5 of these major movies is that they're all pretty messed up movies that are like darkly very comic, and they're a lot of fun despite the fact that they're very dark. And I think I just wanted to measure that because for me, and you guys I guess can't make the same comparison. I guess you could compare it to Killing of a Sacred Deer, but like for me, this is my favorite movie I've seen from him, which is a high mark because I really like the other ones. And I also think it's like I was almost like thrown off by how funny it is because I think all of the other movies I've seen of his are very like dark, like good dark humor, but this movie is like fucking hilarious. I know we're going to talk later about some of the funniest movies of the year, and maybe this one will get mentioned. But like, I didn't realize that I was going to have as good of a time with this movie as I did. Like, it
good
is
time.
Sure. It's just a fun movie, though. Like, right? Like, do you guys agree? I mean,
no, yeah, it's a blast.
Yeah, no, this is fun. This is It's like if Barbie was gay. No, I'm joking.
Okay.
I'm joking. I'm joking. No, this is it's yeah. This movie's really fun. Movie is better than I thought it was going to be,
Right.
which
I
is
guess
a
we
little
can.
silly because I know that
Yeah.
this movie was super praised out of Venice
I mean,
and
it's
TIFF
it's
and
one of the
everything.
best
But
picture front runners, obviously. Like it's a
yeah,
movie with a lot of
No, but
traction
I'll
behind it.
agree too. I was kind of worried a little. I was excited about this. When the trailer first dropped, I was really fascinated by these like skies and the look of the buildings, and I thought those were fascinating.
yeah.
So I kind of held on to that because I wasn't. I saw Killing of a Sacred Deer like a while back, and I wasn't, really a big fan of its sinister nature. But I was really into these, the look of this movie, and then it got really praised at the festivals, and then some people saw it and were kind of that some people I know that weren't big fans of it. So I was not. I kind of lost a little hype, but I was still going to see it because I was really fascinated by some of the ideas, and I did like it a lot more than I thought I did was going to. I was a little worried at the beginning because well, obviously we'll explain it, but Emma Stone's character is an adult body with the brain of a child, and so at the beginning of the movie she's very childlike, and I was a little worried about it at the beginning
Right.
because some of the people that were giving it negative reviews called it kind of annoying, and I was worried that like it was just gonna be annoying at the whole movie. And I'm gonna say I liked it the more and more it went on.
Right.
The more
And
the more intelligent Bella became, and the more interesting her character became, the more
yeah.
I enjoyed the movie for
I
sure.
mean, we could also kind of like we started Ferrari by talking about performances. We can, like Emma Stone, and I saw Yorgos say this. They were filming these scenes like totally out of order. Like her mental age, which is changing throughout the entire movie, was not shot in succession. So she was jumping from like
That's
and
very
not just
interesting.
Succession,
that,
HBO.
not just that, but oh, shut up. But but like they mentioned that like I know like he was talking about like their preparation process and how
Yeah,
he kind of explained her character to her through like life stages. So like he kind of gave like so that she kind of had reference to like what point like she could reference a stage in like the development that she was supposed to be acting that way, but like she got so specific that she was like pinpointing like specific changes within those stages rather than just doing this section of the movie like I'm in this stage. Like she got
sure.
so specific, like scene by scene, like was changing that. I mean, it's just like yeah, I think it's so impressive. I think they're like in my head when Killers of the Flower Moon came out, I was like, I don't understand how Lily Gladstone can't win the Best Actress Oscar. I was like, this is the best performance of the year. I as much as I still want her to win, I mean Emma Stone, it just makes complete sense. Like it is so impressive. I think she's so good in this movie.
I'm gonna say something. I don't understand how Yorgos is such an Oscar darling. These movies are too good for Oscars. Like,
Yeah,
no,
no,
like you understand what I mean? It's like because like
yeah,
The Favorite was nominated,
They
almost
love
won
the
Best
favorite.
Picture,
They
and
love the
it's like,
favorite.
but I'm like, and now people are like, oh, this movie might win Best Picture, and I'm like, how? This movie's too
yeah.
good.
It's
Like
But
it's
this
too
is
good
like,
and it's too weird for like I don't know. Just comparing it to the rest of the kind of group we're putting it in with all those other movies, it stands
yeah,
out very clearly as like the weirdest movie by far.
yeah.
but
I'm like, it doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, it's good. Like, I'm happy that
yeah,
that
it's good
they're
that he's getting the credit for it. I will say if it's also though like with the favorite, and this isn't necessarily like a bad thing because like 10 nominations is or whatever is like a great thing, but like they only like the favorite only won for best actress. And I think like in all of his movies that it's a pretty common through line that like with the types of characters that are being portrayed, like it is a great opportunity for somebody to give one of the best performances of the year. Obviously, like with Emma Stone's character here, it's just such a clear setup for someone like if you get a good actor in this role, they're going to give a good performance. I mean, maybe not as great as Emma Stone did, but you know what I mean. Like, same thing with Olivia Colman in The Favorite, where like it is just an Oscar performance on paper. Like Olivia Colman is obviously amazing, and that's why like she won the Oscar because she's fantastic, but like, you know what I mean? Like it's not like it was winning any of those other races. So I think Poor Things is kind of like a step in a different direction where like this could win several Oscars in so many categories. I don't know, just a thought, I guess, like when we talk about him being an Oscar darling, because I feel like it's more like one of those like he has great actors in his movies, and they get recognition
Yeah,
for it.
but like, I mean, David Lynch also has great actors in his
Sure,
movies, you
sure,
know, and he's never won an Oscar, you know. So
yeah.
I don't know, like,
No, it's a fair point.
but
Has Yorgos won an Oscar though? I mean, it's all like for any. I think it's only. I don't
yeah,
think
just for the Olivia Colman Oscar and The Favorite, I
right.
think. But he's
Maybe the Lobster got some
He's
nominations.
young.
yeah,
I
but
don't
he's
know.
gotten noms,
Sure,
which
yeah.
is
I mean,
already. I mean,
he did
that's
get
just like
nominated for
just
The
any
Favorite.
kind
Yeah.
of recognition from the fucking Hack Academy for a movie like this is bizarre to me. That's what
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what I mean?
No, that's a good point. He did also get. I just checked. He got nominated for best screenplay for The Lobster, which, like, again, very like cool. I mean, The Lobster script is amazing, but like, very. That's that. You're right. That is a very untraditional, I guess, Oscar pick. Like, that's a
Yeah.
cool movie to give a best screenplay Oscar nomination to. Anyway, let's jump back to Poor Things. I mean, you guys loved Emma Stone in this too, right? I hope.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, she is very good. I love her character a lot.
Right.
I think that I hate to be this guy because it's fucking boring now to say, but like, man, Mark Ruffalo is kind of fucking sensational in terms of like
It's like
Yeah.
his
unreal.
performance.
It's like
Like,
unreal. And you know what it is? He has a lot of
Welcome back,
haters
Mark
too. He
Ruffalo.
has a lot of haters.
he
Like
has a lot of
don't.
people. Yeah,
A
no,
lot of people
people
think
like
he's a bad actor.
people like. There's a lot of people that are like, Mark Ruffalo's the worst part of Zodiac and like shit like that is what people will
Right.
say.
Which, like,
Um,
you know, I can see why maybe somebody isn't like super optimistic about like going into a Mark Ruffalo performance in 2023 after he just spent over 10 years in the MCU. But like, I've liked him and like other stuff. And like, I guess people like kind of meme the whole like his whole Spotlight thing because of that like little monologue that he does in Spotlight. But I'm like that's good acting, you know. Like
sure,
he's good.
yeah,
He's good in that movie. I don't know. I've always liked him, but like this is like he's never been able to work with something like this. I mean, this is like
yeah.
so
This is
He just has a very
not Mark
specific
Ruffalo.
thing going on. You know what I mean? Like Mark Ruffalo is a very specific type of guy, and now that specific type of guy has become fucking Bruce Banner. You know, so like I kind
Right.
of get it, but I don't even know what his fucking what is Duncan? Yeah, Duncan
Right.
Wedderburn. All like really crazy. He taps into something fucking psychotic in this movie, and that's
Yeah.
where I'm sitting there watching the movie, like, and then like watching everything happen, and then after it on my drive home, I'm like, okay, Emma Stone's character is sensational, very much an Emma Stone movie, but man, Mark Ruffalo's acting is so crazy, like the performance he's able to get out.
And
Um,
the thing that I wanted to mention before we move away from performances, and I'm not disagreeing because I think that Mark Ruffalo is probably going to be the Oscar nominee of the bunch, and like deservedly so. I mean, he's fucking amazing. There's like a lot of good performances in this movie. Like I thought Willem Dafoe was fucking awesome. I thought Rami Youssef was really good, and like nobody's
Mhm.
talking about that. Catherine
yeah,
Hunter shows up for like 15 minutes, or maybe
Catherine
even
Hunter
less,
looks fucking
and
insane in this
and
movie.
is awesome. Like she's so good. Like I don't know. I you know like maybe some are even. I would even say like
Well, I mean,
towards the end
Gerard
of the movie.
Carmichael's. I
Gerard,
mean,
yes.
Yeah,
well, but
Gerard
then
Carmichael,
also, this is what I
but
wanted to say. I told Owen this last night. But like, there's three fucking times in this movie that I didn't know that three of these actors were in this movie. And when I was watching it, every time one of them shows up, I was like, well, I got like whiplash. I was like, oh my god! Like Emma Stone shows up, not Emma Stone, sorry.
the main character shows up.
No.
First
Like,
second in the movie, Emma
Margaret
Stone
Qualley.
shows up.
Margaret
yeah,
Qualley is
Margaret
who you're
Qualley. Yes,
probably
thank you.
referring
Margaret
to.
Qualley shows up, and I'm like, oh my god, that's
Yeah,
fucking
and
Margaret
then
Qualley.
Christopher Abbott shows
And then
up, and you're
yeah,
like,
and then
yeah,
Gerard Carmichael shows up, and then Christopher Abbott. Christopher
yeah.
Abbott, when he shows up, I'm like,
I mean,
this
he's
movie's still
amazing,
going.
dude. Like he's so the thing that I did know about Gerard Carmichael because he's in the trailer, but Christopher Abbott and Margaret Qualley, absolutely no idea they were in the movie. They also are in another movie together that came out this year, which is a funny little thing. But
Yeah, I was saying to Owen, I was like, the three of them probably got each other like the jobs in this movie, you know.
Well, yeah, I
You know
was
what I
talking
mean?
about there's the sanctuary connection with Abbott and Qualley, and then there's
Right,
the
but
on the
then
count of three
yeah,
connection with Carmichael and Abbott.
that's
So it's just
funny.
funny
Yeah,
that
like Carmichael got cast, and then he
yeah,
brought on Christopher Abbott, and Christopher Abbott got Margaret Qualley in it.
Yeah,
yeah,
like
Um,
something like that probably
that both,
happened.
yeah,
yeah,
that would be funny. No, but I think like I mean Christopher Abbott obviously has like a very clear talent for playing fucking like freaks in movies, but
yeah,
like
really
he
Christopher
good
like
Abbott,
he
bullshit.
Christopher
shows up and is just amazing. Like he just got my attention completely. I was like, this guy is killing it, dude. Like he's so
Christopher
good.
Abbott is going to become a movie star soon.
Yeah,
Like it just
I think
seems like
he's
this is
so
like going to happen. You know, like
yeah. No, I love him. I thought even Margaret Qualley doesn't really get to do anything. Like, well, she does a little bit, but like she doesn't really get to
Kind of.
even
she gets to
talk
look
in the
very
movie.
pretty.
She
Um,
never
Um,
leaves the like baby stage. Of,
right, yeah, which is but like that's funny. Like that's for
yeah,
somebody who
no,
just showed up to film
it's
for a
just like
couple
a
days,
little,
like that's a
yeah.
funny little performance to give. But I don't know. I just think I think it's worth talking about because I don't think that enough people I think there's so much hype about Mark Ruffalo that people are failing to recognize this as like one of, if not like the great ensemble cast of the year. Like,
Oh, for sure.
obviously, like Oppenheimer is a huge deal, and that's going to be the one that gets the most credit. But like,
oh,
you know,
I didn't even
like,
think of Oppenheimer when you said that, but yeah, that's true.
oh sure, yeah, there,
Yeah, knock of the
there's
cabin.
other examples. Knock at the cat, but yeah, I don't,
Oh
like
yeah,
it's
dude.
just everybody's so good. We could move on to talking about, I
The
guess,
movie at
some
large.
specifics. Yeah,
So based off of a book called Poor Things. Um,
good title.
I would like to read this book.
Yeah, same.
uh, but it's funny how like this is another example of like this movie's been cooking for a long time because he asked the author of the book what's his name? He has the author Yorgos once asked the author of the Book of Poor Things his blessing to make the movie right after fucking making Dogtooth, right after Dogtooth came out.
Yeah.
Um,
Did you see what he kind of like? Did you see his interview when Yorgos did his directors on directors? He talked about
yeah,
talking to the author and how like
yeah.
they kind of just like they just like met and like had a conversation about it. And he was like, "Yeah, you could do it." And then like like you just that was it. They just went and filmed it. I don't know, just like the way that he describes it is very funny. Like he just got an okay, and he was like, "All right, we're doing it." Like that was it. Like it's just like this guy who like who wrote Poor Things and was like, "Oh, it's getting turned into a movie," and like just didn't. He's not really like involved in the process, I guess. But
That's always for the best, though.
Well,
sure,
yeah, and he died too, kind of a couple years ago, I think.
That sucks.
Well, yeah, rest in peace.
well,
I mean,
yeah,
it sucks that he died, but it's also it's like it sucks that you never got to see it.
Yeah, no, yeah, he
right,
died in 2019, so he died probably like right when they started filming, or like right before they started filming, probably.
right.
Unfortunate. But anyways,
Yeah. Back to the plot of the movie.
yeah, so it's a
We
very much a Frankenstein thing, you know.
Yeah, it's very much Frankenstein. It's a pretty long movie, so we can just kind of talk about, I guess, specific sections of it or things that
Is it too
stand out.
long?
I don't think so. That's like a major complaint that I have seen a lot of. I I didn't like. I don't like. People were saying that they like started to get bored and it got repetitive and
I
like they
never
kind of
got
got the point.
bored.
I That didn't
Yeah,
really happen to me. I mean,
I
I obviously there's like a point in the movie where you're like, I get the idea kind of thing. Like you're
sure.
like, oh, I see what's happening and like you get it. But I don't ever think that really like
I think it's too much
mattered.
fun.
Yeah, I'm like, I followed it through. I would have kept going. Like I was like, I followed it through the whole way. I was like, this is
The
fine. Yeah.
only moment, and people are, and this is like a little intentional on Yorgos's part, probably, and like some other, and like this is pretty obvious too. The only moment where like I was really feeling the length of the film is towards the end when the movie feels like it's wrapping up, and like it feels like that Bella has had her entire arc, right? And then Christopher Abbott shows up fucking out of nowhere, and it's basically like,
Yeah.
and another thing, and then there's another half hour of the movie.
Yeah. And
um,
did you not like that half hour or you thought you
I
still
liked it, but I also think that it didn't have to be in there. But you know, it's like it's a
yeah.
movie; nothing has to be in anything, right?
Right.
Um, uh, it's I don't know. The movie's long, but the movie's great.
Is there I guess because just to give like just to split it up for plot reasons, there's a section at the beginning of the movie where like she's, you know, like in like an infancy stage or whatever, and then a lot of the movie happens as she kind of gets taken away by Mark Ruffalo's character, by Duncan, and then goes to all of these places, and obviously like eventually returns home, and we get that 30 minutes that Doug's talking about. Is there like a section of the movie that you guys liked the most in terms of like the different settings that she went to or whatever?
Owen, do you want to see something?
I like post Ruffalo, I think, the most. I do
I
think
agree.
there's this she's kind of becoming into like her final stage, and she's just I like I mentioned this earlier, and like how the kind of original, like the beginning of it, I wasn't crazy about. I think I just like, I don't know, I'm not gonna say it's my favorite part, but I think I'll like that section more on a rewatch, just having the full film kind of in my brain, because it's such a specific tone, and I kind of just was more on board as it went on, as she kind of gained more consciousness, and her, she just understood more stuff about kind of her outlook on the world. So I think I just will like the beginning more on rewatch, but I think the smarter she gets, the more I just like the movie, because I think the more it just has to kind of say when she has more to say.
Yeah.
I really like. I agree with you. And I really like Emma Stone, Willem Dafoe, and Rami Youssef
Yeah,
as a
I think
trio. I
it's a
think the
good
three of
trio.
them together are so good. Like they have such amazing chemistry. Like
He's such Rami Youssef's character is such a like it's amazing how much like he like it's such a heartfelt character. I feel like it's such a like
when he first meets Emma, the first line he says is, "That's a very beautiful retard." You know,
right.
it's an interesting guy. Like it's
Yeah. Which
and
I
then
mean, I don't think like that's the hardest I've heard a theater laugh all year. Like
really?
people like that line a little too much, I think. um, like yeah, I mean, of course it's funny, but like
yeah,
yeah.
but then there's the moment when Willem Dafoe, who creates Emma, and I love how Willem Dafoe in this movie. Also, this movie is so unreality. That's another thing. If like you
Right.
haven't seen Poor
I'm
Things and you're
big on
listening to
that.
us, you're probably very confused. But like the movie doesn't take place in the past or the future. The movie takes place in like just a total fictional universe that does not that is not.
With like names of real places.
Yeah.
But very much not those places.
Yeah. And Willem Dafoe is just like mad scientist, like he's putting pigs on the heads of dogs, and he's putting
he's both mad scientist and he's both Frankenstein and Frankenstein's monster.
Yes, exactly. That's the thing with the Frankenstein experiments are so a lot of things are interesting, because it's like Willem Dafoe is both, like Willem Dafoe, he's very much like, oh, I have to do it for the love of science, but then there's so many moments where it's like, my father, when he did this horrendous thing to me,
it's like generational trauma.
Yeah, no, it is like generational trauma, and then Emma is his kid, right? And then and he's like, yeah, I created this monster for the love of science, and then I fell in love with it,
Yeah, there's also, this is such a small thing, but there's like a running bit throughout the movie where he like does that little like bubble blowing thing, and that's like
funny.
the funniest joke in the entire movie to me. I was like, they could have done it 100 times and I would have laughed every time. I was like, this is so fucking silly. And like,
so I thought, like, when they first do it, I thought he did it on purpose to like make Emma laugh, and then he does it 2 more times when Emma leaves, and it's just him and Rami Youssef.
Like he just like needs to do like, it's so stupid. Like, I love that part.
I just love how they're at that big long like dining table, and it's never more than the 3 of them. It's just like there's so much, like I love the sets.
Everything about that. I mean, they like there's like entire like not cities, but like the cities that they visit, like those are like whole sets. Like they like built, like they did all of that.
I was while watching it, I was thinking
insane.
like, are they using the volume? I don't think they are, because I can't find any like thing that says that they might be, and that's like they would have reported that, I think, if they were. But like it looks like the like kind of like volume technology with like the interesting lighting, and like the way that the background CGI looks, you know, it's so like
It's
Yeah,
incredible.
it's, like,
Easily, I
unreal.
just my favorite art design of the year. I love those when they, they're changing. They're going from different cities to cities. They have those little, like, transitional moments where they have the big text over like Emma Stone and this like a weird like black and white
and like
like
limbo, like
yeah, it's very just fascinating, creative like art design decisions that really like it's a very bizarre um not realism story, and the art is there to match that, and it's kind of bizarre nature, but it's very bizarre, but it's not bizarre in a way we've seen before. It's really unique, and it's a film that doesn't look like any other film. And even
Yeah,
though
I
we're
mean, no
getting
movie
those,
has ever looked like
well, even though we're getting those Frankenstein vibes, it's so
Yeah.
original in like its look and feel. Um, I don't know. There's so much that I like about it that it's just kind of
Yeah, and
I
that's why I
yeah.
mean, it's a hard I was gonna say, it's like, it feels hard to, like, cover the movie on the podcast because we're not gonna talk about it at length, but, like, so much happens,
Yeah, I
that,
wish you could, but it's also it's like it's I wish we could just pull up, you know, visuals too. I wish I could just
Right,
because
yeah, like, I wish we could just point at
there's
the
so much
screen and,
well, there's
like
so much interesting stuff going on visually. Like there's really fascinating lenses, and
Right, yeah.
there's these like peephole kind of shots where we're like
Yeah,
looking in on Bella, and a lot of it is like this kind of I don't know if unreliable narrator is the right word, but it's like not really like like there's no actual thing like looking at her, but there's like these weird like
yeah,
point of view shots from just like nothingness that are really like fascinating like image decisions that I wish I could just kind of like dissect more and show, but really
yeah.
fascinating like visual ideas in this entire movie.
yeah, like there's a lot of like wide shots, and then there's a lot of I don't know what the word for it is, but it is I don't like the circle,
Yeah, yeah.
it's not a fisheye lens, but
Yeah,
it's like a really wide lens that's like cropped into a circle.
yeah.
It's
Very fascinating stuff.
It's
yeah,
so cool. I mean, honestly, now that you mentioned it on this episode, like, it really is just, like, kind of, ridiculous that Yorgos gets, like, the love that he does, and maybe it's just because he's making, like, Dogtooth is, an international film, and now that he's, like, working in, like, Hollywood, maybe, like, he's getting more recognition from them, but, like, it's just, like, it's insane that he gets the recognition that he does. I mean, it's awesome. He's so
Yeah,
cool.
well, it's like I mean, it's a very maximalist kind of in
Yeah.
your face, like rated R, I don't know. It's,
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
mean,
it's
like,
very,
it's like a movie, like, made to generate the most annoying discourse on the internet. Like,
yeah,
it's
no,
like, like, this is if this movie, like, if any of, like, the annoying, like, sex scene discourse actually mattered at all,
oh that I was like, what are you
this
guys
movie
talking
would be,
about?
like, the prime example of, like, people
yeah,
getting upset about, so I mean, none of those people are gonna watch this movie.
yeah.
Um,
Well,
but
I just think it's funny, like that stupid tweet where it's like the most unnecessary sex scenes. I'm talking about necessary, like integral to like the story sex
right.
scenes of.
Yeah.
I mean, I just think it's the word necessary in a film. I think you mentioned earlier, but it's not like a real thing. But
Yeah, it's
like,
not a real thing, of course,
I don't
um,
know. I think
but they mean so much to the story.
yeah, just in terms of Bella's discovery and her experimentation and just kind of her outlook on the world and her journey is really kind of
Yeah.
involved in this entire thing.
They the so the Rami Youssef character is interesting, I think, because um there's the moment towards the beginning when Bella's still like a kid, you know, like basically
Mhm.
appears
Right.
to be like an adult with like a severe developmental disorder, you know, um and Willem Dafoe's character is like, you should marry Bella Baxter, you should marry Bella, and Rami Youssef is like, I mean, basically being like, yeah, she's very fucking hot, but I don't want to take advantage of her, you know?
Yeah.
Which is so fucking crazy.
Yeah.
That's like, it's a crazy thing to like hit that head on and be like, you know what? No, I will marry her, and then we just won't have sex until she is more developed. And it's like, that's grooming.
Yeah. Very uncomfortable kind of beginning to her like kind of whole sexual discovery.
But then at the end, when she chooses him again, it's like the most heartwarming like scene of the year.
I love
That's
their
what
little,
that's kind of
like,
what I
their
meant
little
about
their
his
little
character.
walk
Is,
their little walk where they're having like an actual conversation, and
Yeah.
she's like explaining like how she feels about certain things, what she's done, her like opinions on things, and he like kind
she
of
says that like thing to him about how many men she's had sex with, and she's like, "Do you care?" And he was,
yeah.
And he says like it's your body, you know, and it's like that's like this is like that's like he's not presenting the same as like how like, you know, it's like what she says right before that is like, does that hurt your the idea of ownership men have, or the desire for ownership men have?
Well, you have, I mean, Mark Ruffalo's character is like the kind of opposite side of that, where he kind of flips the fuck out like multiple times every time. Like there's like scene, I think he's on the bench and Bella just like is mentioning other things, or like because she
talks so casually about it,
talks about how she's making money and stuff, and he's just like having like a child meltdown.
Just like fascinating character. I mean, it's just
And
like so well written, like such.
And then the Christopher Abbott character. This is also why it's like the whole like, I think that I don't know. I don't know how necessary to the plot the Christopher Abbott section is. It's good. I don't know, because I do get, because it's like from a thematic perspective, you just mentioned it. It's like, oh, Mark Ruffalo's there as like the opposite, but then Christopher Abbott comes in and he's just the Mark Ruffalo character but more extreme. You know, he's just the Mark Ruffalo character but with a gun.
I do like the whole idea of her past life kind of coming back into play. Because it's the idea of like
that's a good point, because that is like a whole
body existed and was like a real person for how many years old Emma Stone's character is supposed to be, and like it's not like she jumped off a bridge and Willem Dafoe's character found her. It's not like they've like moved across the world and like hid. Like they're
like in the same city.
He's probably like in the same city, a town over. Like she's just like living like, because I mean, she didn't go outside for however long she was in his care. Like she was sort of hidden in that way, but now she's going out, and like people are just immediately recognizing her because she didn't like. She's not disappearing. She's just living again. So I think Christopher Abbott's character is important to kind of not only remind us, but kind of bring that like, hey, she is existed before, and the fact that like he's doing this to her as like, that's her dad and her like ex-husband in like this like weird kind of way where it's like it's a very weird relationship, and the way that like they have, but also the way that he's acting towards her, and like the way that he's like basically like gonna have her like lobotomized and like just like under his care. So like, because he doesn't even know that like he has no interest in like anything actually.
Well, he was gonna
like the ownership,
they were gonna
aspect of her.
Take out her
brain,
her
like I don't
no her vagina. They were gonna take out her entire vagina.
Right.
Yeah, I forgot about that too. It's kind of the ultimate like level of ownership and like fucked up evil guy.
Yeah.
What a crazy movie.
Really,
cool
really
thing that Poor Things is a movie that came out this year.
I do kind of like it because you didn't mention it that like the wedding seems to be a wrap up kind of thing, and then like, oh, there's more movie. I do think it's funny like using the wedding as like a symbolism of like, this is the end, this is wrapped up, and then like the objection being like, oh, actually there's more. I do think it's funny that it's used as like that. I don't know, it's just very like
it is, because it feels like the movie's ending, and I'm like watching with a smile, and I'm like, oh, this is so fucking lovely, what a beautiful ending. And then Christopher Abbott basically like
in all fairness though, the ending that she does actually get like later on in the movie makes more
Oh,
sense
I mean, you
to
have
like
yeah. It's so
her like personhood than
yeah.
if the ending was, oh, she gets married. Like it's like
Yeah.
she takes significant like
Mhm.
steps and like becoming a human being
Well, yeah,
when
they it's like a little happy family, and then you have
yeah,
Christopher Abbott, goat.
as like a dog or like a goat or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that
It's
part was funny too. That's just we want to touch on anything else, or do you think we
Oh, I don't know. I didn't write notes down for
yeah, I
these
mean,
movies, so like
yeah,
we.
this is,
Oh,
like
yeah,
we could
no,
talk about the movie for a while, obviously, like I
it's. I
said,
think
but
like my favorite score, maybe.
oh, true.
It's so good.
It's certainly up there.
I
Yeah,
listened to it when
it's
because I was doing my notes for this episode and I was just listening to the score while doing them and I'm like, this is good music, dude. It's like so
yeah,
good.
no, yeah, it
Um,
is good. All right, then let's wrap up on Poor Things and let's talk about the year wrapped up. I guess
yeah,
the
let's talk
wrap
about
up of
2023 in
2023 movies.
cinema.
Okay, so we're going to talk about a bunch of 2023 movie categories of sorts. We're going to try to, for some context for the listener, do a little bit more of appreciation for like maybe some underseen movies, some lesser talked about performances, because Oscar nominees will be out in a few weeks and we'll probably be talking about some of the big things there. So, for example, like for me, obviously, I'm not going to be giving as much love to something like Cillian Murphy and Oppenheimer this episode. Like we tried to stay away from like some of the big talking points of the year so that we can touch on movies that we probably won't ever talk about again maybe next year. But we're going to start by doing a little, I guess, recap update on what our top 10 movies of the year look like as the year is officially over. Obviously, I think for me at least, I don't know if you guys agree, there's like probably movies that you're going to keep watching after into the new year, but
Owen said he's not actually. Owen said he's if he ever sees 2023 on the
okay.
on
Well,
Letterboxd,
you know what
he's
I
gonna
meant.
just like
There's
it's
still
a
movies
little
Yeah,
you
boy
guys want
love.
to
I
catch up on.
quit. I
I know
quit.
you
I'm
haven't
gonna
been
watch
able to
real
see like
movies.
Zone of Interest, Doug. So like that's like a big thing, obviously, that
It's
could
2024
impact your list. Well, not really. The movie's been out
in
for
my
like
city. It's 2024.
fair enough. Anyway, let's just we're gonna probably, I imagine, talk about all of the 10 movies in our top 10 at some point in some other category. So we could kind of just rattle them off, I guess, from 10 to 1 if we want to do that. So let's do a little back and forth. My number 10 is The Eight Mountains.
Top 10 movies of the year. Your number 10 is The Eight Mountains.
Yeah, I'm a little
Top
bit iffy about
10.
my 10 spot. I'm a little bit iffy about because there's like 4 movies I could have picked here, but I decided to do The Eight Mountains for the podcast specifically because of
Version
where
of be different. Version of be
get
different.
mentioned. No, well, because it'll make sense later. But anyway,
All right,
my
buddy.
number 10 is The Eight Mountains. Doug, your number 10.
Sorry, what is The Eight Mountains about?
Oh, The Eight Mountains is it's like a
Is it a
I want to say like
documentary?
30 or 40. No, it's not a
Okay.
documentary. It's on Criterion Channel for people who want to watch it. It is like a movie about these two guys who live in like a very rural area of the Italian Alps, and it follows them over their friendship of like 30 or 40 years. Like it starts with them meeting as kids, and they're the only two children in this neighborhood. Like no other kids live in this neighborhood. Everybody has like moved out of this town, and it follows them over the course of like their whole lives pretty much, and their on and off kind of relationship, and it's just a gorgeous movie. Like the mountains and like the all of the it's just so pretty. And there's the I don't want to get into too much of it because I'll probably bring up some things about it later on the episode, and also it's like a movie that most people listening to probably have not seen. But yeah, that's my number 10. Doug, you want to do your number 10?
My 10th, the 10th best movie of the year for me is The Killer, directed by David Fincher.
Solid choice, which we have done a podcast
We
episode on.
did a podcast episode. Blah, 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 we did a podcast episode about it. You should listen to it. Owen, 10th best movie of the year.
Kind of a surprise to me that it ended up here, but my 10th best
Ooh.
movie of the year is Oppenheimer.
Oh shit! I thought I knew that.
Yeah.
That's funny. And you just rewatched it like Was it yesterday or how recently was it?
Yeah, a day or two ago.
Yeah, that's exciting. I'm so happy that it made your list. Okay,
Yeah, I mean,
my
obviously.
yeah, my number 9 is Asteroid City.
Ooh.
It's still, I mean, listen, I've been moving some stuff around. There's a lot of wiggle room between. I want to say my top 4 is locked in. I think there's a lot of wiggle room between the 5 to 9 spots. These things could get shuffled pretty easily, but for the sake of the episode,
Yeah, I
Asteroid
got a
City is
lot of
at number
wiggling to
9.
do.
Yeah, it's like my favorite Wes Anderson movie. I think it's
Yeah.
great. That's my number 9. Doug, your number 9.
My ninth favorite movie of the year is Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1, directed by Christopher McQuarrie.
Real pick. That's a Doug
It's-
pick.
yeah, I mean, it rocks.
That might be the Doug. That might be the most Doug pick on your top 10.
Perhaps. It's very good. It's the movie that taught Joe Biden the dangers of AI.
Right. All right. Oh, and your number 9.
My number 9 is Patrick Wilson's directorial debut, Insidious: The Red Door.
That might be the most
So-
Owen pick.
That's a real aspect, dude.
Yeah.
My number 8 then is new Christmas classic, The Holdovers. Doug, your number 8.
I haven't seen the holdovers yet. I don't think I will like it as much as you guys do. So I don't feel too bad about not watching it
Fair
before
enough.
this.
Yeah.
But my number 8 favorite movie of the year is Godzilla -1, directed by Yamazaki.
Right.
The new yeah.
Okay. Owen, your number 8 pick.
Poor Things.
Real.
Oh wow.
Oh, damn, that's pretty high. Yeah. I knew it would be high. I didn't know it'd be top 10. That's cool. My number 7 is Albert Serra's Pacifiction, movie that I just watched a few days ago. Just like insane movie. It's so good. It is like for the listener, as a recommendation, if you're going to check it out, it is a long and slow movie, and mostly nothing happens, which, like, that's a relative thing. Obviously, a lot happens, but for, for a lot of people, they might feel as though nothing happens. It's about like a French diplomat on the island of Tahiti, and like it's like a movie about like how they want to resume nuclear testing there near the island, and his connections with like both kind of people in the government, and also his connections with like the underground life of the island and like the nightclubs and stuff. And it's just a gorgeous movie, and also like so dark. I'll talk more about that later, but
Yeah, I want to watch this one.
yeah, it's fantastic. You're onto your number 7 pick, Doug.
The 7th best movie of the year is Poor Things, directed by Yorgos Lanthimos.
Yeah, real. Okay. Oh, and your number 7?
7 for me is May December for Todd Haynes.
Great choice, if I do say so myself. My number 6 pick is from one of my favorite directors, Kelly Reichardt's Showing Up.
Oh shit!
My number 6. Is that your number 6?
My number 6 pick is also Showing Up, directed by Kelly Reichardt.
I'm so. Oh, and did you watch this as well, or?
I've seen a good chunk of it.
Okay, that's certain. Okay, I'm just so excited because I also talked to our friend John, who watched it today. Like he reached out to me and asked what he should watch before the year ends, and I mentioned Showing Up. He really liked it. I'm like so happy that people are like watching this movie as the year wraps up and appreciating it. Like I did not think. I knew that Doug would like it. I didn't realize it would be your 6th favorite movie of the year. Like that's so exciting. That just makes me really happy. Anyway, Owen, your number 6 pick.
My number 6 pick is Close Your Eyes. A lot of people are gonna probably have this on their
2024 movie.
but
Right.
I saw it this year, so I'm gonna put it on my list. Yeah, it's kind of really amazing. I'm not gonna talk about it too much. I'll talk about it a little bit later because I do have it on some of our little things, but
Yeah.
kind of an all-time movie about the image and its power.
Right. Yeah. I was what I was hinting part of what I was hinting at before we started this list when I said that the Eight Mountains was like a strategic choice for my number 10 pick is because my number 11 pick is Skinamarink, which is a movie that you guys don't count as a movie for this year, which is why I was like, I'll leave it. I'm going to mention it in other categories, but I was like, I'll leave it off of the top 10 for that reason. So that, that because there's obviously like there's this whole weird thing when we
I mean, I think
what years they came out in, and
I think it's totally fine to be like, hey, I saw this movie this year. Let me put it on this year's list.
Yeah,
because it's like your list.
This is all list. Made up. This is all fucking made up.
Your list is your list, so that's I mean it's fine. If Skinamarink was on my list this year, it would be like number 1 or 2.
Damn.
So I feel weird just throwing it on there. But
realistically, it's probably my number 10. But for the sake of the list, my number 5, though, to get back on track, is Killers of the Flower Moon. A movie that I'm probably going to mention a lot on this episode, so we'll leave it at that. Doug, your number 5 pick?
Beau is Afraid, directed by
that's the most Doug pick. I forgot about that.
Ari Aster.
That's the Doug pick. All right, Owen, your number 5 then?
The Holdovers, Paul Giamatti,
real
Alexander Payne.
This is also a very Owen pick because Owen's in this movie. That kid is just Owen.
Right.
Oh man.
My number 4 pick is a movie that I want to rewatch immediately. Might even go see it tonight. The Iron Claw. So fucking good. And my friend just saw it and she loved it, and that makes me very happy. I'm so happy people are digging the Iron Claw. And also being absolutely broken by it, but we'll talk about that later. Doug, your number 4?
Ferrari, directed by Michael Mann.
Yeah, that just missed my top 10, but one of the movies that could have been in that 10 spot that I was picking between.
Was that your 4?
That was
it's my 4th favorite movie of the year.
Oh, and your number 4? Is it also
Ferrari?
Yeah. Oh shit! Look at us.
That's twice in our top 10s. That's pretty good.
Look at that. What are the odds?
All right, into our top 3 then. My number 3 is Past Lives.
We have an episode about this.
We also have an episode about Past Lives.
Sort of. Not one of our best. I'm going to be honest. So
sure. I still have I'm still a little bit have my feelings hurt that Owen doesn't.
He's still
like
writing,
and it's a movie that I've spent a lot of time thinking about, and I thought might drop on my list because of some of the criticisms I've heard of it. I think I have taken in those criticisms, considered them a lot. I think a lot of them are very valid opinions, and I've realized that I do not care. So it is my 3rd favorite movie of the year. Doug, your number 3?
Killers of the Flower Moon, directed by Martin Scorsese. I think that Killers of the Flower Moon and Oppenheimer are kind of like in contention for like the most important, like the most remembered movie of this year, like the movie that this like when 10 years from now
recognized that like people will point it, be like, that's the movie that came out that year. That's a good point. I think you're like spot on. I think those are the 2 movies. And your number 3?
Number 3 is Eli Roth's Thanksgiving.
The
slasher of the generation right now. I know it doesn't really come close, new streams and whatever. It's
a rough generation of slashers.
It's not.
It doesn't have the most competition.
No competition really. But it's
like putting LeBron in the 60s. My number 2 is May December. Also going to mention this one several times. Doug, your number 2?
We didn't talk about May December on the podcast because I never fucking saw it.
Yeah. Have you still not seen it? Right?
No.
Oh,
yeah, you gotta, man.
That's really like the biggest movie where it's like, this is I'm obviously gonna probably really like that movie and just didn't watch it. That's really.
May December is a movie.
Yeah,
capital movie. But anyway, your number 2.
My number 2, people are gonna say this is fucking stupid, but my number 2 is Poison, directed by Wes Anderson.
Oh,
little 10-minute short on
People might
Netflix.
say it's stupid, but that's the most fun pick on the list for
Yeah.
anyone.
Doug was trying to keep it off, and I was like, "You have to put
Yeah.
this shit on the list, bro."
Yeah, I mean, I gave it 5 stars. It's one of my favorite fucking things I saw all year. It's so amazing, kind of
Yeah.
impeccable. Yeah, so like Poison at number 2 for sure.
That's kind of. Never mind. We'll get there in a second. We'll get there in a second. And you're number 2.
I went back and forth on this like a million times, and it's really just like a tie for me. But Wonka's my number 2 of the year.
Real. Yeah. Wonka's so cute.
Paul King. I saw it again yesterday.
We also, speaking of
with my
podcast episodes,
family.
just did a Wonka podcast episode, so that is very much available for
so much
anybody who has seen
fun.
Wonka. All right, our number 1 favorite movies of the year.
Yes.
I think all 3 of these are not surprises to anybody who has listened to the podcast.
They've kind of been locks all year. All 3 of us have had these as locks.
I mean,
all
how
year
long? Before we say it, how long have these specific movies been on? Has this like
since we each saw them? I think when we saw them in theaters.
Just like did not wait.
It's kind of been there for a while. I was like, oh, maybe Wonka.
Owen's is the longest, by the way, because yours
came out in February.
Anyway, let's do our reveals. My number 1, to no surprise, is Oppenheimer.
Of course,
Doug,
totally valid.
I was hinting at your number 1, Doug, because I was going to say how crazy it is. But you can name it.
Yeah, no, my favorite movie is Asteroid City.
That's what I was going to say. It's just crazy that the top 2 are both Wes Anderson.
Big year for Wes.
Rocks.
I mean, I just love what he's doing right now. I don't know.
Yeah. That's awesome. And then Owen, obviously, you're number 1 again, to no surprise.
Not get the captain.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Nice. That kind of, you know what? I love that because like we're just who we are, you know? Like we're just honest guys. We're not trying to be anything we're not. I
got a haircut today, and I literally like I was talking about can I give the full story before you start laughing? I was talking to him about how we're going to be doing the podcast episode where we wrap the year up, and he asked me what my favorite movies of the year were. So I was recounting, like I was giving him my top 10. I was pretty much doing the podcast episode while getting my haircut. And I was like, listen, dude, I wish it was a cooler pick, but it's Oppenheimer. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, it's just, I mean, it's fucking Oppenheimer. Anyway, let's get into some of these specific categories then, because we have a lot to talk about, starting with our biggest surprises of the year. And just again, added context, we're not gonna, the way that we're gonna cover these lists, we're not counting down. We're just gonna we're gonna start with our favorites for any.
We have 10 picks for all of these categories.
I don't have 10 picks for this category. I have 10 picks for some categories, but some of them I capped at like 5 or maybe even less. But biggest surprises of the year, I will get us started. I think this might pop up on your guys' lists. My biggest surprise is Godzilla -1, a movie that I didn't even think I was going to be seeing this year. I wasn't really even aware of it until about 2 weeks before it came out. And so that is my surprise.
I have this as one of my biggest surprises as well, but unlike you, I was aware of this. I did know there was going to be a new Toho Godzilla movie, and I was excited for it. I didn't know it was going to be this good, though. You know, that's what kind of surprised me.
Really good. Yeah. You want to give us your number 1 pick then, Doug?
The Pope's Exorcist was the biggest surprise of the year for me, for sure. Yeah. That actually kind of came out of nowhere, and I was like, "Man, this is so fun!" Like,
well, I remember I don't know if it was because of the podcast or just the way I had my day scheduled, but I saw Renfield and the Pope's Exorcist back to back, and I was like totally prepared to be like, both of these movies are fucking horrible. And maybe it was just because of how bad Renfield was, but the Pope's Exorcist was such like a sigh of relief and like, oh, this is actually fucking good. And I had so much fun with watching that.
How far off your top 10 was that, Owen? The Pope's Exorcist.
Let's see.
It was the top 15 movie.
I imagine it's like an honorable mention.
12. Yeah. It's, I would say the creator, Pope's Exorcist, and Dungeons and Dragons are my 4 stars that did not make my top.
Dungeons and Dragons is one of my.
That's so funny because those are 3 like movies that like, you know, like a 13-year-old boy would fucking love.
All right, Owen, you want to give us your biggest surprise?
Thanksgiving.
One that
I was excited for like the excitement kind of ran over. I didn't know they existed. I knew of the trailer of Thanksgiving. I didn't see the trailer until this year. I kind of knew it existed for a while. I saw my first Eli Roth movie this year. Knock Knock and I saw Thanksgiving. I watched Knock Knock as like prep, but like I wasn't prepared going into this year and be like, oh, the new Eli Roth movie is gonna be one of my favorite movies of the year. And now like I'm gonna
Here we
that's
are.
gonna be a movie
Look at us.
I watched like a billion times. So
Yeah, I didn't even put Thanksgiving on my biggest surprises, even though I do
Thanksgiving was
love that movie.
Thanksgiving was my number 4, so it's definitely on my list as well. I really had no excitement for it up until like right before seeing it. Like I really was not like I mean I knew it was the movie coming out, but like it wasn't until like really like the few days leading up to watching the movie that I was like, oh shit, this is a movie
there's like so many horror movies that we kind of discuss like when we do our like what the movies we're excited for. We're talking about like Evil Dead Rise and stuff like that. But like Thanksgiving kind of comes out of nowhere and it like takes the crown of like that horror movie of the year, really.
Yeah. Another one of my big surprises, this is the most Kevin pick in the world. Love at First Sight, which is a movie that right. That's the context necessary. That nobody knows the movie. It's like I have moved so far beyond the point of having any hope in like when I see a Netflix original movie is coming out, but and like especially a Netflix original like rom-com of all things, and I was so close to not watching the movie. And then like one night I just like was getting in bed and needed to just like throw on something like, you know, whatever. And I knew it was a movie that just came out. I was like, let me just put it on. And like it's just like the cutest romance of the year. Like I cried like 6 times. I was like, this is so sweet. Like I was shocked by it. So you know, it's probably for a majority of people not a movie worth entertaining. But if like that's kind of your thing, if you like a cute romance, it's certainly one of the ones of the year. Like it's one of the good ones. So that really surprised me. Doug, you want to give us another pick?
Yeah, this is a movie that I haven't talked enough about this year, and I feel bad. And it just missed out on my top 10. I couldn't fit it in only 10 spots. But it's Jawan, directed by Atlee. It's a Indian Hindi action film. I literally went and saw this like on a whim. I was just like, oh, they're playing this at the theater I usually go to. I'm just gonna go see what's up, you know, spend the afternoon watching it. And I was like, I had so much fun. And this movie's insane. It's like it's a communist like action movie. Like the hero played by Shah Rukh Khan, who's one of the biggest movie stars in the world. He's a fucking terrorist. It's insane, you know, and the movie's like crazy. It's really good, really, and it totally took me by surprise. I didn't know about it until I saw it in theaters, you know.
Yeah, that rocks. Yeah. Oh, and you got another one? I mean, and feel free, by the way, to when you guys are
I mean, Insidious the Red Door is kind of something that kind of took me by surprise. Not that I knew it was not coming, but I watched the first few Insidious movies and I'm like, okay. And then for some odd reason, this movie just kind of really clicked with me and kind of almost recontextualized the rest of the franchise to where I'm like, I'm totally on board with like enjoying this whole franchise. I really do love Patrick Wilson, and I think he's just kind of so much fun in this. But I think this movie's like really heartfelt and like emotional. I like it's less of a I love this horror movie, and it's like this is just like a really heartfelt like family drama that's disguised as like a horror movie.
Yeah.
But the horror elements are still really great as well. I think the emotional beats really work for me in this movie.
Yeah.
That wasn't a surprise for me because I like Insidious movies.
Yeah, fair enough. Another one of my big surprises to keep on the romance path, like don't even know how this happened, but Anyone But You is not a bad movie, which is what I thought it would be for a very long time. And let me put that into perspective. For a lot of people, this movie is going to suck. And by all accounts, it kind of is a bad movie, but it's just so fun. I thought it was hilarious. I think the romance maybe doesn't even work, and I don't even think it matters. I think you can enjoy this movie a lot without ever caring about the romantic chemistry or like the romantic story at the center of it. It's just fun. I don't know, like the whole like press circuit surrounding it, and the fact that like these are like, you know, Sydney Sweeney and Glenn Powell, like there's this whole like talk about like them together and all this stuff, and I'm like, they're just having fun, dude. Like it's like I don't like it's just like I think watching the movie as like them and not even their characters is like more like I'm just like I was watching the movie and I was like that's just Sydney Sweeney and Glenn Powell. Like I'm like I didn't even really like think about the fact that they were playing characters. I was like this is a stupid movie and I'm having a great time. So that's a big surprise for me because I said for a long time that movie was going to suck and I had a lot of fun with it. Maybe because I thought it was going to suck. Yeah. Anyway, Doug, do you have any more?
So, with Anyone But You, I think I need to put together a masterclass on how people are watching movie trailers wrong because I don't understand how everybody was like, "Oh, the movie's gonna be so bad." It's like, bro, the trailer looks like a fucking rom com. Like, I don't know. It looks
Right. Which I think my perspective, and this is something I said after watching the movie, is that like a lot of people are going to make fun of a dumb movie for being dumb when it's supposed to be dumb. Like it's like this is a dumb rom com. Like what did you expect, kind of thing. Which
yeah,
like, and I've stood by that for a while. I just think particularly like seeing that trailer and that dynamic, I was like, oh, I don't think I'm going to enjoy like these two people in a rom com. Like I was like, this just doesn't look appealing to me because I think we're getting such like fresh rom coms recently. I mean, another movie that I don't have it on my surprises list, but like Rye Lane is like a really fresh rom com from this year. And then
yeah,
I saw this trailer for, like a rom com about like two rich white people. And I was like, oh, maybe this is not like going to be all that like good, but it is. So yeah, I don't know. I was wrong, but you have another movie, Doug?
yeah. Well, the last movie I have written down is Maestro, directed by Bradley Cooper. That's a big surprise for me because the movie's really good, and I wasn't interested in it at all until like right before it came out.
I thought you were interested, but that's interesting.
No, so I listened to I was like not even gonna watch the movie. And then I heard I listened to a podcast that I really like and they were super positive about it. And I was like, okay, well maybe this movie's really good. And then I watch it and I'm like, this movie's really good. So I don't know. But yeah, my show was a big surprise for me.
Owen, do you have any more surprises that you want to throw
Yeah,
out?
Dungeons and Dragons was one of those things where it's like this movie rocks, but it's like I was like I want this to be good so bad because it was
Yeah.
like really cool concept, and I'm really into like these big like fantasy worlds, and we really don't get these colorful fantasy movies anymore, and like everything's just very like hyper serious. So the idea of this like colorful Dungeons and Dragons inspired fantasy movie, like fantasy adventure movie, was something that I was really interested in and I was hoping wasn't like really bad. And I really love it. It's so much fun. I've rewatched it since with my family, like at home and stuff. And I just think it's a fun movie and just a movie that like kind of anyone can watch. And it's kind of just a fun time. And it's not just a fun time that's like slop. It's a well crafted, fun adventure that everyone can watch. And I was really, I guess surprised is a weird word for it, but like I was just really happy that it came out good,
Right. Yeah. That's one of my favorite movies of the year. Also a major surprise for me. The only other movie I have to mention is Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, which I I don't want to completely say it's a surprise because I had seen Kelly Freeman Craig's previous movie, Edge of 17, which I thought was a really sweet movie. So like I totally had faith that this could be good. It's more of just like oh this is just really good. Like this is just like a heartfelt like just like a movie unlike any other movie we got this year, I feel like. So that is surprising and more just surprising how much I liked it. Is that everybody's surprises then? Are there any other movies you guys want to name?
no,
Or
I guess I could say like I'm surprised that Wes Anderson like took over me like this.
right.
I mean I like Wes Anderson, but I guess I wasn't expecting to be like, oh, this is their, now the greatest working on tour to me, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. You have anything else, Owen? Or you want to move on?
No, that's pretty much it for my surprises. Most of the stuff I was excited for, I was happy that I liked it. But there's
Yeah.
always good surprises every year. Me and Doug were looking yesterday, trying to like just like the depths of like Letterboxd, looking for like any
Yeah.
movie that was coming out next year that has any like possibility of being good. But there's really like as much as you look and kind of prep, there's always going to be movies that sneak up on you, and movies that you think are going to be bad that end up being good. So
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
really excited for the next year, and I always kind of just like collecting a year's worth of like movies and seeing all the movies and just kind of the surprises are always delightful for sure.
Yeah. Speaking of things that are not as delightful, we're now going to move on to our biggest disappointments of the year. And I am not going to speak for you guys, but I think one of the things that made this year so good for me is that all of my most anticipated movies were movies that I loved. So I kind of struggled to make a biggest disappointments list because like these are like for me at least like not all that significant picks, but I would say my biggest disappointment to get us started was a movie that all three of us were kind of excited for, 65, which just ended up being, not a
Oh,
movie worth
yeah.
talking about that I was pretty excited for. Again, not too many disappointments for me, but that one definitely stung a little bit
Yeah.
because that could have been a really cool movie if it was better.
Yeah, I mean that would probably be on my list, but because you guys saw it before me, I
Never saw
didn't
it.
even.
Yeah, you had no.
I just didn't even go see it.
Yeah,
I didn't
no,
go
I
see
mean,
it.
I remember that first trailer and the poster, and it's just Adam Driver and this like, you know, I wasn't expecting it to be like some great thing, but kind of on the realms of like the Pope's Exorcist, the Dungeons and Dragons, where it's like it's just a fun, well-made movie with an actor I really like. The Chris Pine, Russell Crowe, Adam Driver. Like I
Sure.
just want to see Adam Driver in a fun movie that's a good time and it's like a well-made. It's just the issue with it is it's really just boring and not well made. So you
Yeah.
have Adam Driver, and there's not to like talk about it forever, but there is kind of it's like Adam Driver's kind of out there on his own, and the only other character can't talk to him. So it's just
Yeah.
Adam Driver kind of walking through a place. It's I don't know, it's a disappointment, and but at the end of the day, you take these because you get stuff like Ferrari, and you
Yeah.
get stuff like Megalopolis. So who knows how much they paid him for this, but I'm sure he got a nice little check here, and we can move on, and he can continue
Yeah.
to make Don Quixotes and Megalopolises
Right.
and Ferraris. So it's a disappointment in the fact that the movie's not good, but I think it's gonna be probably a positive.
It is a
back.
dent in the shining armor of Adam Driver.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a check. It's
Yeah,
happens,
of course.
it
I'm
happens.
talking mostly just about,
No, for
I get
sure.
what you're saying.
But
Doug, what movie disappointed you the most this year?
I'm gonna sound like a baby. The Super Mario Bros. Movie.
No, that's fair though, because that could have been such a fun movie.
I thought I was listen, Nintendo. I like the Super Mario Bros. Games. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. No, like I think that's a really valid pick.
And then the movie was just fucking lame. It was like Trolls 2 or whatever the fuck. I'm like, I don't know. Like
I don't know that I hated it as much as most people, but I don't really like it all that much either. Owen, do you have a biggest disappointment of the year?
biggest. I didn't really rank these.
Sure. You could
I
just
didn't
name
like.
one
I
out.
didn't like Infinity Pool at all.
That's
Really,
fair.
I
No,
was.
that's yeah.
I was like.
I was
did
I was
not
close to
like
putting
it.
that on my
Like
list.
I was excited for that movie, and I did not like it. So
Yeah.
it's up there for me, definitely.
I was close to putting Infinity Pool on my list, but like ultimately I still enjoy it. Like I wish I liked it more, but I don't know. Another one for me that might be a bit of a disappointment to hear for Owen is The Creator, which like again kind of a movie that I was super excited for, just like really lacked in story for me. And uh, like I don't want to say it was frustrating because I still enjoyed a lot about The Creator, but like frustrating that it didn't make me emotional considering how emotional it could have made me if it was just a little bit better written. Like it's like, just could have been one of my favorite movies of the year, and sadly that's not the case. Doug, do you have another pick?
Ghosted.
Right, yeah, which is like only a disappointment. You might be the only person in the world who's disappointed by Ghosted being bad.
Yeah, listen, I have a sneaking suspicion that there's going to be another fucking Ana de Armas movie on my list of disappointments next year. It's just
Oh,
it's
Emerald
gonna,
Fennel, here we go.
Yeah.
it's just gonna keep going until she fucking really hits on a great one, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, Ghosted. I mean, you know how excited I was for that. I was like,
Yeah.
Apple, like I was doing so
You were
much
the
free
number
promo
one.
for that movie.
Yeah, you were.
Apple should have flown me out to the fucking premiere for
Yeah, you
Ghosted.
should have been on
Yeah,
their social media team.
Did they have a premiere for that movie?
Yeah.
I don't know. Probably.
Yeah. Owen, do you have another one?
Evil Dead Rise.
Oh,
I know a lot of people like that movie.
yeah.
I like the original 3 movies. I didn't like that movie. And the new one I didn't like.
Yeah, that's one I considered a little bit, but I think I ultimately like it more than I dislike it. But I guess disappointment when you compare it to the rest of the franchise for sure. I think it's the weakest one in the franchise without
Yeah, I mean, I
doubt.
was excited for it just because of,
I
it's
think it's
kind of the
better
thing.
than the other one.
Yeah, I never saw the
You think it's better than the
2013 one.
2013 one?
Yeah, the
I
2013 one like is very good.
I
I
like the
didn't see that
2013
one.
one
The
like
2013 is one is like, what if
more
we do
personally.
Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2 but worse? you know?
Sure. I mean, I'm not saying it's better than
Yeah,
Evil Dead or Evil Dead 2, but I like it. I certainly like it more than this one. I think it's significantly more fun than this one.
That's fair.
Fair
I
enough.
had fun. I don't know. I'm going to talk about
Yeah.
it later, but
Right, yeah. Okay, another disappointment for me is a movie that a lot of people really liked this year, Blackberry, which I again, it's like
interesting.
I don't some of these the first 2 I named are, whatever, but like Blackberry's like I don't I wanna give the context that I still enjoyed Blackberry, but I went into it with
Kevin,
very
it's just because
high
you haven't seen the
hope.
3-hour TV cut.
Right, right. I just went in with high hopes because like people were loving this movie. I mean, people do love this movie. Is like for a lot of people, this is very high on their like list for the year.
yeah,
And it's funny. There's also a performance in it that I'm going to mention at some point on this episode. But like, yeah, just in general, kind of a letdown for me. Like, I wish I enjoyed it as much as everybody else is enjoying it. But what can you do? Doug, do you have another pick?
Yeah, the last movie I wrote down is Sakura, which is a movie directed by Donnie Yen. It's like a big Chinese blockbuster that was directed by Donnie Yen. It's not good.
Right.
I was like, oh, I'm gonna really like this movie, and I was like, no, it's like a bad movie. It's like a bad like Marvel rip off like kung fu kind of wuxia thing. It's not. It's just not good.
Yeah. Um, Owen, do you have a lot more
yeah.
I could rattle off a bunch, so I don't know how
I
many
have a
more
few
picks you have to
more.
go through. Okay.
Yeah, I'll just talk about them. Out of all the movies that I have on my list, the one I like the most is Rebel Moon, but it's still a disappointment because of just the way that it was released and just what we have right now. Very
Right.
bizarre, like with the 2 cuts and everything. I think this cut is fine, but it's also like I was really excited for this movie. It's like one of my most anticipated movies of the year. So it to just come out being like, oh, it was okay, that was okay, is a
Yeah.
disappointment for sure. I put Hypnotic on here. It's Ben Affleck. I just want to see a solid Ben Affleck movie. It felt very like just a random Netflix original to me.
Yeah.
I also the last movie I did put on was Barbie,
Yeah.
just because I wanted to like that movie and I didn't. So
Yeah. Fair enough.
it's got to be on
I
the list.
I could rattle off a few. Another one for me, that similar to Blackberry, not a movie that I disliked. Magic Mike's Last Dance is a disappointment, not
I
because I
almost put that
disliked
on
it, because
my
I
what's it called,
No,
surprises.
right,
What did
which,
you say?
like, is a totally fair surprise. I think my problem is that the first Magic Mike is a movie that I absolutely
Sure.
love. The second Magic Mike is one of my 10 favorite movies ever.
Yeah,
So, I think the fact that this
it's just
doesn't
good.
stack up against those is just a good movie is a bit of a letdown because, like, in
Sure.
an alternate universe, if this was a great movie, you're talking about maybe my favorite trilogy ever. But that's
Hmm.
not the case, sadly. I still liked it. So, another one that I just like put as a consolation thing because I just wanted to be hopeful about this movie, but then it turned out to be the most annoying movie of the year, Saltburn. I wish it was good, but it's not. No Hard Feelings is another one. I was hoping that I would enjoy it because I wanted like that type of like rom com back. Um, People really like it. I don't. And then there's like a bunch of like boring franchise stuff like Fast 10 that I was like, maybe this will be good. Like I like Fast and Furious movies. It's not. What can you do? Those are my disappointments. And we're gonna move on to the most underseen movies of the year and give some attention to maybe some movies that, like I said earlier, might not get talked about all that much regarding this year, but that are really good. So I'm going to start with the obvious pick for me, which is one that we mentioned in the top 10, Kelly Reichardt's Showing Up, a movie that everybody should watch if they want to get into Kelly Reichardt's work. In my opinion, one of the great movies of the year. Yeah, people don't really watch a lot of Kelly Reichardt movies. She's not exactly a popular director, but they should because she rocks. And this movie's great. So that's my first most underseen movie to knock off the list. Doug, do you have one?
Yeah, sorry, I was texting texting. I was tweeting at friend of the pod, goddamn Tyler Whitmore is declaring war on my fucking mentions right now.
Oh
Um,
no.
but it's fine. The most underseen movie of the year is Master Gardener, for sure. I think it's so underseen that our co-host Kevin hasn't even seen it. Like it's
Right. Well, the thing is,
Oh.
well, let me put this out there though. I was very close to watching this before our episodes that I could mention it on some of our lists, but I think the reason why I chose not to is because I knew it would be mentioned by you guys a lot. So I was like, it wouldn't hurt if I just watch it like, the first week of January or whenever I catch up on it. Like it's like I don't
yeah,
really have to
So
include it because I know you guys are going to give it
I
the
had it
attention
on
that it
my
deserves.
underseen list as well.
Yeah.
like
And
nobody
that's
watched
why.
it, and here's the thing. The circumstances around Master Gardener are kind of, they suck because it does have very challenging subject matter, and I know, and because of the subject matter, a lot of people, including some of our friends, like aren't going to connect with it very much, um but like because of the subject matter, that's why a lot of people didn't see it, is because it didn't get distribution for so long.
Yeah.
It debuted at some pretty big festival. I don't, it was like Venice or something, right? Or maybe it was Berlin. It was something. And it debuted. It got kind of like middling to positive reactions, and then just nobody picked it up for like six
Yeah.
months, and it didn't have any. It had like zero buzz. Like had like
It
super
is
limited theatrical
it is
release.
streaming now though for people who do want to check it out. I think it's streaming on I don't know where it's streaming on. It's streaming though. It's like available for people to watch. Um Owen, do you have a pick for Underseen?
Padre Pio, the new
Right.
Oh
Il Ferrero
yeah,
movie. That
Another one that I almost watched before this episode, but that I knew you would mention.
really interesting digital film that no one fucking saw, with like a really cool performance from Shia LaBeouf. Um, so like real filmmaker, real actor in a cool movie that no one saw.
Yeah. I am
I need
just
to watch
gonna
that.
I'm just gonna quickly gloss over two movies and then jump to another pick because to go along with picks in my top 10, both Pacifiction and The Eight Mountains are on my list up next. And like I said, those are two of my 10 favorite movies of the year. Everybody should watch them. To throw out another one though, 1001, which is so
I
good.
I need to
Uh,
watch it. I really need to see this
it
movie.
it is a directorial debut that is like I think for a directorial debut like navigates a lot very well. It also has a performance that I will probably mention later this episode from Tiana Taylor that is really fucking good. And in an alternate universe would be getting Oscar buzz right now, but what can you do? There's a lot of good actresses. Yeah, 1001 is a movie that everybody should check out. It's like, I mean, it will, crush you a bit. It will make you very emotional. But it's in a year of great debuts. It is one of the best. So that's my next pick. Doug, do you have another one that you'd like to throw out?
Yeah, The Outwaters.
I thought you didn't
uh,
like this movie.
He doesn't like this movie. He does not like that water. Doug doesn't like this movie.
I like this movie. This is fucked up. I like The Outwaters. It is
No, you
underseen.
don't.
If you're interested in horror movies and experimental film, maybe not experimental films, but if you're interested in kind of like weird horror movies, you should definitely watch it.
Right.
It's good. Nobody saw it except for me and fucking Owen, and Max.
And I liked it.
And I liked it too.
Okay. Owen, do you have another one?
Yeah, David Slade's Dark Harvest is like this
Right.
very bizarre movie that feels like reminiscent of like YA novels, but also has like some of the most crazy fucking shots of the year. Not the best movie you'll see all year, definitely not the best script, but same cinematographer, Larry Smith, is the DP of Eyes Wide Shut, Only God Forgives, Bronson, and this movie. So there's really like cool stuff in this movie. I think it's just worth checking out because it's like a bizarre little horror movie with some like really fascinating cinematography. It's got like it's like set in this like it's almost like a dystopian kind of thing where everyone like is trying to act like Elvis, but they're like they can't leave the town. And there's like a game thing. It's really bizarre and it feels like almost like a chat GPT like YA novel was like that's how they wrote the movie, but insane like shots, insane weird horror elements that it's just kind of worth watching that no one really saw. So I recommend it for that. The guy who did Twilight Eclipse also is the director. So very bizarre movie that's just kind of so bizarre you kind of have to watch it.
And David Slade has done Black Mirror episodes as well, right?
Yeah.
Okay, my next pick is A Fire, a movie that, if you're a Romero fan like me, definitely channels some of Romero, although it goes in directions that maybe one of his movies wouldn't. But and follows kind of like a quite an unlikable protagonist that you end up relating to a lot by the end of it, which is I think a good arc for a character, and a movie that I think a lot of people will like see themselves in and be like, oh damn, I hate that I see myself in this movie. So if you want to experience that, I think A Fire is a great pick for people to check out. Do you have any more picks, Doug?
Yeah, the last pick I have is well the Henry Sugar shorts on Netflix.
Right.
All of them.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people kind of like ignored them because and like wrote them off as like minor works from Wes Anderson that you could just skip. I'm here to tell you, they are major works and you should not skip them.
Yeah.
But a lot of people did. I know. I mean, people saw them, of course, but like I feel like not nearly as many people that should did. You know.
I think the people who were truly enjoying Wes Anderson this year, you know, like the people who saw Asteroid City and were like, I want more, definitely saw it. There's a lot of people currently who are like, I'm tired of watching Wes Anderson. And I think those people didn't give them a chance, even though they're very good.
Yeah.
What can you do?
What can you do?
Owen, do you have any more picks?
I mean, it's more seen than Dark Harvest, but I do really like the Boogeyman that came out this year, and that's just another horror movie that I quite enjoy. That it's not like the most underseen and hidden gem, but it is something that like I just thought I'd throw it out there because I'm sure someone that's listening to this hasn't seen it.
Yeah, and we did talk about that on the podcast, didn't we? I think we covered.
Yeah, I'm sure we mentioned it, or I don't know if we did a full episode, but if we did, go watch that because I think it is a fun. It's a fun little horror movie that came out this year.
Yeah, it was fun. I could have put it on my disappointment list just because I have this thing.
Gray area.
Well, I have this thing about the Boogeyman or movies where it's like I see a trailer and I'm like, oh man, this movie's gonna be so fucking good because like, the Boogeyman had a really good trailer, and then I watched it and I'm like, oh, all the good moments are in the trailer.
Yeah, that's how I felt about when we were talking about disappointments. That's exactly how I felt about No Hard Feelings, where I was like, this looks like it could be like one of the great comedies that we get, and I was like, oh no, actually they just put all of like the 5 funniest jokes in the trailer and like in full, and then like it's hard to laugh at them when I've seen the trailer 50 times. Anyway, I'm just going to rattle off a bunch then so we can move on. I have Scrapper, kind of like this year's After Sun, which I mentioned. So, you know, After Sun was much more popular last year. Maybe people should watch Scrapper. I have a movie that I watched with Owen, Humanist Vampire Seeking Consenting Suicidal Person. Long ass title, really good movie. Monster, the new Koreeda movie. He's putting out a lot of movies at a very fast pace, and this one.
That movie's not. Awesome. You can't. How are you going to call that underseen? That movie's barely out yet.
No, well, nobody went to see it in theaters, really. I mean,
it didn't play in theaters near me.
Okay, my bad. It played in theaters near me, and it played at a very busy time of the year. So I imagine most people were watching other theater releases and didn't give it a chance. Is my point. My theater was empty, so people should watch Monster. I have Rotting in the Sun, also like hilarious movie, so good. Goes in the craziest directions imaginable, just like truly like one of the most unique movies anybody will watch in any year. Kokomo City, a documentary that everybody should watch, a really, really good documentary. It's only like 70 minutes long. Everybody should check it out. It didn't even get the Oscar shortlist for best documentary feature somehow. Such a snub, but that's a different conversation. And then The Starling Girl, which I mentioned earlier on the podcast at some point this year, and Blue Jean. Those are my underseen. Now we're going to move on to underappreciated performances. So moving from movies to performances, I imagine maybe some of those movies we just mentioned might get brought up here again, but I will get us started, I guess, with one of the best performances of the year in a movie I just mentioned, Benoit Magimel in Pacifiction, the lead in Pacifiction. unreal performance. He is so good. He has a monologue that's like, I don't even know how long that scene went on for. He has like a monologue in the car where he is just, it's one of the best moments in any movie this year. He is so good in this movie. He's also like in a lot of good movies. This is the guy who was the main dude in The Piano Teacher, however many decades ago.
Yeah.
Like this guy rocks. He's great in Pacific Fiction, so that's a performance that should be getting way more love. Doug, do you have one?
Yeah, I think the single most underappreciated performance of the year is Joel Edgerton in Master Gardener.
Right.
He should probably be getting nominated for an Oscar, but nobody saw this movie, nobody's talking about this movie,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
assuming Owen also had that.
yeah. I did have him. I think Dave Bautista, when Knock at the Cabin came out, everyone was like, "Oh, Dave Bautista, he's so good in this." But it's kind of like in terms of like awards, in terms of like actual like serious consideration, he's kind of been forgotten about because the movie kind of has been forgotten about. But Dave Bautista, and I guess Jonathan Groff's really good as well. Throw him in there as But I think Dave Bautista is like it's some of his best work, if not his best performance of his career. So I think that's definitely one of the most underrated.
For sure,
Yeah, it's so underappreciated that I forgot to put it on my list.
It was on my list.
Yeah, I'll gloss over my next one because I just mentioned it previously, but Tiana Taylor in 1001, like I said, should definitely be getting a ton of Oscar buzz, but what can you do? Another pick, Franz Rogowski in Passages. The main character in Passages. He is so good in that movie. I mean, I could be giving this spot to all three of the main characters in that movie. Like Ben Wishaw's great. But he's just amazing as the lead in that movie. He plays such an unlikable character, and he does it really fucking movie as well. Passages, a movie that not a lot of people have watched. So there's another pick. Doug, you want to keep it going?
Yeah, Michelle Williams in Showing Up. Phenomenal. Very unique film, very real performance. Very realism as in like invoking a real person kind of performance,
Right. I wrote down everybody in Showing Up.
Well, I can go because I have a lot of names. I can go get I have the next person I have on my list is John Magaro for both Showing Up and Past Lives. I think because here's what happened, right? Last night I was like putting together my notes for this, right? And I got here and I was like, oh, John Magaro in Past Lives is really good. And then I was going do and I was like, you know what? Who plays the brother in Showing Up? He's so good. And then I was like, oh my god, it's also John Magaro.
He's what a year for that guy. And two movies that are not like neither of them are like the biggest movies of the year, especially not Showing Up, but like I mean, two great performances, like two. Yeah,
I think that he's really underrated in Past Lives because I think a lot of people kind of dismiss his performance a little bit. And I think,
and obviously, like the other two performances that he's alongside are getting a lot of love. So it's kind of like you get outshined when the whole cast is getting love, of course. But
and Showing Up though, he really taps into something awesome again, invoking realism, invoking like a real person, and it's really amazing.
He's so good in that movie. Like he's a standout. And you want to name another one?
Yeah, I think like as a comedic performance, Patrick Dempsey in Thanksgiving at that like final comedic. I don't know whether it's just like his like Boston accent or whatever, but I just think that his acting in that is just the funniest thing. So I kind of throw him on here. Patrick Dempsey is having a great year. Really funny in Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that.
Another pick of mine is a guy who I have so much stock in to have just like such a great career ahead of him. Harris Dickinson and Scrapper, who's also, to be fair, could also be on this list for his performance in The Iron Claw, which is being overlooked because of how many good performances are in that movie. But he's fantastic in Scrapper. I think he's so good in general. I want to see Harris Dickinson in like a million more movies. Doug, do you have more?
Yeah, I have so many written down, brother.
I as well.
Because here's what they don't tell you about the Oscars and award seasons. Bless you, Owen. God bless you. I don't think anybody heard that, but
No, it's
um,
muted.
uh,
I got that mute off. Like,
Yeah.
is that
oh, jeez.
acting and like so much of like the performances that are recognized by the Oscars and stuff, like these are not like the best performances of the year. A lot of the time, these are just like the most seen movies that were campaigned really well.
Yeah, not just that, but a lot of times, like the thing that Owen mentioned with Dave Bautista and Knock at the Cabin is that if a movie itself is not that liked, then performances in it are usually not going to be nominated. Like you're not just really like there could be a lot lot of great performances in movies
people did
that
like
weren't
Knock at the
received as
Cabin, but a lot
well.
of the talk, some of the talk of it was like, oh, the movie's
Yeah.
bad, but David Peace was good.
Right, and that's like if it like Knock at the Cabin is not an Oscar movie, so it's like when you have a movie like that that's not an Oscar movie, it's
Yeah.
probably going to be overlooked for performances. So that's another thing that like there's a lot of good performances in non-Oscar movies.
But
anyway, you're going to name somebody, Doug.
Yeah, I was gonna name. I'm gonna fucking butcher this,
Okay.
dude. Hidetaka Yoshioka, who plays the doctor in Godzilla. Yeah.
I also was about to put this
yeah.
on my list. Yeah, that's a great
He,
one.
I mean, if we want to talk about a guy this year, he's a fucking guy.
Well, I
He's
assume
so
that's
good.
that's the thing. I assume this is going to come up in another category, which is why
He's so good. He's so good. Where like after I watched Godzilla and I saw how much like praise it was getting, like because Godzilla was like secretly like after Oppenheimer, kind of like the critical darling of the year. I was like, oh, can this guy get nominated for best supporting actor? And it's like does not appear like that is a possibility actually. But he's so good. He should. He's so good.
Right. Owen, do you have a bunch more? How many more do you have to rattle off?
Yeah, I have like 3 more.
Okay.
I put Patrick Wilson Insidious / Aquaman because I just think he's just having a fun year. I like both those performances. I might as well give him a nod. Different performances for sure. He's having a lot of fun in Aquaman, and he's just like playing a really good dad in Insidious. So I just thought I'd give him a little nod.
Yeah.
There.
Well, Insidious is also kind of tough too because he was directing
this. Yeah, which is a feat for sure.
Yeah. Another pick that I have is I think it's in the most popular movie of the year, but underappreciated because, like I mentioned before, Oppenheimer has such a massive ensemble cast that so many people are getting love, and maybe some get less of it. David Krumholtz, I think, like holds a lot of this movie together. I mean, he is like the heart of the movie. He is like the guy that Oppenheimer goes to. Like he is like. I mean, he's so good. Like he's so good, and obviously, like you get like your Matt Damon performance. Robert Downey Jr. is getting Oscar buzz. Like people are going to forget about this performance.
People talk about Casey Affleck a lot too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But I'm like, David Krumholtz is like, to me, like he might even push this movie over the edge for me. Like why it's like my favorite movie of the year. I'm like he brings so much to the movie. Like he's just like the reliable guy for like he's the heart of like not the heart of the story, but like the one like person who you can really like find empathy in the movie.
So many performances
that's another
in that movie.
I mean he's just nobody. I mean Doug literally like gave me a look where he was like
Josh Hartnett.
Who is that guy? Like it's like people don't really talk about it, but he's great.
I didn't recognize his name, but I got it.
You have another one, Doug?
On Twitter.
I have 2 more that I wrote down. I have what is this? It says it says everybody in Asteroid City.
Right. I mean, you could have picked. Yeah, you could have made your whole list people from
every single person in Asteroid City. None of them are getting talked about at all.
Yeah, this is what I imagine you when I said the Oppenheimer thing earlier about an ensemble cast. I imagine you were thinking of Asteroid City.
Yeah. I was thinking. I forgot. Yeah.
Good year for ensemble casts. Like good.
Really, really good year for ensemble casts.
Owen, you want to give us another one?
I talked about it a little earlier when I talked about Padre Pio, but Shia LaBeouf in Padre Pio, I just think is a really fun performance that no one's gonna talk about it because no one fucking saw that movie.
Right.
But I sort of like him as an actor.
What does he say in the meme? Like, say Jesus is Lord or
It
whatever.
is Christ is Lord. He says Christ
is
is Lord. It's I don't know. He's very like aggressive and but he's also very composed. And I mean, he's playing a character who is just a tortured kind of guy who is kind of going through a lot of internal conflict that is presented very fascinatingly in his emotional range. And I also just put John David Washington for the creator. I think he's fun in that movie.
Is that your last one?
Those are all my.
All right, Doug, you only have one more, right? Because I'm going to rattle off a bunch of names, so you can.
Yeah. The only other person I want to write down is Shah Rukh Khan, who doesn't necessarily need like more praise. One of the most wealthiest, famous movie stars in the whole world, just not necessarily here in America. But he's really good in Jawan. He plays like two different characters. It's kind of like a really complex performance for an action movie. He's really good in that.
Yeah. Okay, I'm just gonna fucking fly through these. We've got Maura Tierney and the Iron Claw. We already mentioned Rami Youssef and Poor Things. The entire cast of Dungeons and Dragons. Also, the entire cast of Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. I think both.
Oh
of them
yeah.
Great
I didn't put. What's
Rachel
her name?
McAdams.
I didn't put Rachel McAdams because I thought you were gonna bring her up.
Yeah. Well, now I'm saying it. Yeah. I mean that both Abby Ryder Fortin, Rachel McAdams, Benny, like everybody involved in that movie. Great. Rosie McEwen and Blue Jean is a great lead. I put Milo Machado Grainer, the kid in Anatomy of a Fall, who like is amazing child performance. I put Margaret Qualley and then Christopher Abbott in Sanctuary. Eliza Scanlon in The Starling Girl, Calvin Harrison Jr. in Chevalier, Julia Garner in The Royal Hotel, Sophie Wilde in Talk to Me, one of like the first performances of her career. Glenn Howerton in Blackberry, which I mentioned earlier, just like one of the most fun performances of the year. Penelope Cruz in Ferrari, like we said before, and then finally Thomas Schubert in A Fire, the main character in A Fire. Okay, now we've got favorite newcomers, both first time directors or like new or maybe actors who we had not seen previously, just like up and coming, I guess.
This one was fucking tough for me.
Yeah, I tried to keep my list a little bit shorter for this one, but my kind of obvious pick for favorite newcomer is Celine Song, whose movie Past Lives is directorial debut and one of my 3 favorite movies. So that's
of course
no-brainer. Obviously very excited for
of course.
I mean, it was on my list too. It's like it's like the most obvious fucking
make mine.
Of course not. Okay, Doug, you want to give us another pick then?
Yeah, I had to kind of dig deep for this because I didn't want to just name people, because like there was a lot of people that were like new to me, like people I wasn't aware of, but they had actually really long careers, and I didn't mention any of those. I didn't want to mention any of those kind of people. So like I was having a hard time and I was digging deep. Violet McGraw, she plays the lead kid in Megan. She's very good. Very good kind of breakout performance. She's been in a couple other things, but I think this is like her biggest role, like her big breakout. She's really good in that.
Yeah. All right. Owen, you got another one?
Yeah, Dominic Sessa from
he's on my list.
Is kind of an astonishing performance, and it's not even just he's not new to me. They found him because he went to school at the school that they shot at.
Just, I mean, like the most insane. I mean, like the guy's gonna be a star. Like he's just like everybody loves it.
He's gonna be around for the next decades or so. So he's just like what a force of nature. Very cool young actor who I'm excited to see what he does next. Very awesome. Maybe I love the movie, but could be the when we look back at it, the best thing about this movie is that we kind of discovered this guy. Right, because I truly think he's gonna be around for a while.
No, I mean he
has such an interesting kind of vibe to him. A lot of people kind of, the discussion online is kind of this guy like was ripped straight out of like the 70s, and he's like an old school kind of actor. So him just kind of being and this is really cool. So that's my my most whatever whatever this is called, the what is it, newcomers?
Newcomers.
Yeah.
My next pick is somebody that wouldn't be on your lists, but you know, you guys will agree, of course. Kyle Edward Ball, directorial debut or feature
Oh, yeah.
directorial debut for Skinamarink. Obviously, like
What a
we are
Come
all
on.
we are all so
Come on.
excited.
Come
Yeah.
on.
What do you
Come
mean?
on.
Come on! Wait, the whole category is first time directors. Like, what do you
No,
want me to
I
do?
know,
Not
but
name Kyle Edward
yeah,
Ball?
like fucking obviously Kyle Edward Ball. Like,
Yeah, like
yeah.
no shit. Yeah. Yeah, that's my
Come
next
on our
pick. Again,
podcast, buddy. You ignored us on Twitter.
That's heck disrespect,
that's okay.
honestly. I'm gonna
I did have Dominic Sessa as well right after Kyle Edward Ball, but I'll
Yeah.
let Doug name another one for now.
This one's a little bit more obvious. Alyssa Sutherland. For
Oh, I didn't even think about
yeah, Alyssa Sutherland in Evil Dead Rise. She's the standout in that movie. She like her performance is. I know that Owen doesn't really like the movie, and I know that you're not super hot on either, Kevin. But like her
that. I still
performance
like
is kind of the thing that holds the whole thing together for me.
Yeah,
She's
she's
really
great.
good in it. And it's like maybe like you didn't consider her because she doesn't feel like a newcomer, but she hasn't fucking been in anything, dude.
Well,
She
I think my problem is that for a lot of these like categories, I started to look at like mostly movies toward the top of my list. So like when I got further down, I kind of glossed over. And I guess since Evil Dead Rise is a little bit lower on my list, I didn't really think about that. But like earlier in the year when the movie came out, I was like, this is my favorite performance of the year so far.
Yeah, no, she's so good. And
So
she's like,
yeah,
without her, the movie kind of really crashes and burns. Like,
yeah. Do you have another one, Owen?
Yeah, Kayla Lane, who is the young girl who starts across from Timothy Chalamet in Wonka, who
Right.
Oh,
isn't
wow,
really
yeah.
in anything, and to be able to kind of hold the screen with one of our young finest actors and have a great. I think one of her song is one of the best songs in the movie. I really love that that piece. So yeah, I think she's really fun. Who knows, how much she's going to be in the future, but I think in terms of like this is a huge movie and she's the kind of second lead there with Timothy Chalamet is kind of huge. So I really like her performance.
Now I'm thinking that like after missing that one and forgetting Alyssa Sutherland, I'm like, damn, there's probably a lot of people I missed. So that's definitely a good thing to like put out into the universe for the people listening. If there's like people that we miss, you guys should definitely feel free to share that in the comments. My next one, who I just mentioned in the previous category, Sophie Wilde and Talk to Me, who has just not really, she's been in like a few kind of shows and not really many movies, all of which came out in like the last 2 years. Like she's just getting started. And Talk to Me is a major performance. I mean, she's the lead and it was a movie that a lot of people really enjoyed this year. So, and I think she's great in it. So that's my next pick. Doug, do you have any more?
I really don't have any more. Again, this was like a hard category for me to pull from.
Owen, do you have any more left then?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if this counts. I'm gonna do it anyway.
Right.
Charles Melton.
That was my next one.
Yeah,
I left it towards the bottom of my list because I was like, this isn't really a newcomer, but like a new stage of his career. He's being perceived in a new light.
Hey, I mean, it's like it's kind of like I left off a Lordy because like he's been around, but like it's similar thing where like it's really like this is his first year in the big leagues. Like, I mean, but definitely more for Charles Melton because we kind of knew Lordy could do it, or at least we were like expecting it. Charles Melton kind of came out of nowhere, and he's so good in May December, and like he's just another guy with like Dominic Sessa and Lordy and those young guys. It reminds me similar of Austin Butler, where it's like he just kind of one good performance, and now he's like, hey, this guy's gonna be around. It's like this performance is so big, it doesn't need 7 performances. We just need this performance is so good that we know this guy's gonna be around for a while. So I just expect him to be, always in talks or like, casting, and he's gonna be around for a good bit. Same with Paul Mescal too. He's like that one, after Sun, and then boom, now we're going. We're gonna be around for a big chunk.
I don't have too many other picks. Another one was, like I mentioned before, A.V. Rockwell, directorial debut for 1001. And then the other last one I want to mention, speaking of ensemble casts, is just like the entire cast of relative unknowns in How to Blow Up a Pipeline, just like people who are like pretty much not known to the public at all. And their whole dynamic, everybody together is just fantastic in that movie. I think they all deserve credit for it. And we're going to move on to our favorite scenes of the year, this was a tough one. And this, speaking of what I just said before, is a category that I definitely forgot a lot of stuff in because it's like, I don't have the best memory to begin with. I've watched over
Yeah.
100 movies this year. I was like glossing over them, and I was like, I'm not going to remember specific scenes about every one of these movies. So I tried my best. We'll see how many scenes we knock off, but I'll get us.
This was definitely
all.
the hardest one for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's impossible. There's so many.
Yeah, it's tough
Um,
to. I don't really
my
think in scenes. I guess.
Yeah, my first scene, kind of gonna try to dance around spoilers since Doug still hasn't seen it, but the May December graduation scene, for those who have seen May December,
Yeah.
just the most arguable. There's another
You could
movie
say
that I'm
that
gonna mention,
last 30 minutes though. Even like it's like
right.
that
There's so
chunk of
many. I mean, you could say the whole movie, really, if we're being honest. But
that.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
the
No.
graduation scene, the way that it plays out, the significance of it in the story, and just how fucking emotional it is. I mean, it's like a gut punch. There's two other gut punches this year, like two other most emotional uh scenes that I'm not going to mention in this category, which is why May
Yeah.
December is the. I mean, yeah. Doug, do you have a favorite scene?
Yeah, this is where I get into some unpopular opinion categories, I guess. But the church
Okay.
scene in Maestro,
I don't even think that's an unpop. I mean, well,
that shit made me
I guess,
cry.
yeah, I guess some people don't like it, but
People on
from my
Twitter are shitting. Bro, there's a
yeah,
clip of the church scene going around on Twitter right now, and people are calling it embarrassing. And I'm like, I don't.
from my perspective as somebody who didn't love the movie the way that you did, I still think my problem with the movie was that there was scenes that I really liked and there's a lot that I don't like. That scene, as like, I mean, I think it's great. I'm
I was
surprised that
watching
people are
that scene and I was being like, I love music. I was like tearing up, being like, I miss when I was in school doing music. I was like,
Yeah, no, I mean, it's great. I'm surprised people feel the way that they do about it online, but I could get, you're gonna mention this at some point probably. I could understand a little bit more maybe why people are like being a little hostile towards Bradley Cooper in general, but I don't know how you can
yeah.
um
I
hate
think that
hate on
moment is
that
kind of
scene.
undeniable.
Yeah.
But
Owen, do you have a favorite scene of the year?
Favorite of the year.
It
It
doesn't
might
literally have
just
to be your
be.
favorite, but
Yeah. I did say that like end of May December, but it's the movie that you guys haven't seen. Close Your Eyes, I think, has the best ending of that I've seen this year. So obviously I'm not gonna talk about it too much, but kind of
right.
one of those movies where it like ends on like, hey, this is how powerful movies fucking are, and like uses. There's just so much of the movie is intertwined with like the power of filmmaking, and like the lead character is a director and he's kind of looking back on his life and stuff. So it kind of ends with this really emotional, powerful scene that kind of is like movies rock. So
Yeah.
that's kind of my favorite scene and favorite like ending of
Something
the year.
something that I want to kind of put out for how I went into this is that I would say a lot of my favorite scenes of the year are movie endings.
Yeah.
Just to give a little
Those are the easiest to kind of remember
to give a little
too.
glimpse about what's coming up. We're gonna talk
A
about the
good,
best
a good,
endings of the year. So I left
yeah.
endings off
Okay,
of
sure.
my favorite
Cool.
scenes because I just wanted to like talk about other scenes.
Yeah.
My next scene we're gonna not talk about at all because it's the most obvious fucking pick in the entire world. Like no fucking brainer. We could
I'm
just
gonna
move on
say
to Doug.
Oppenheimer.
Yeah, it's the
Oh yeah,
Oppenheimer
yeah.
Trinity test. I mean, like, duh. Like, I like it. What else is there to say? I mean, obviously.
Yeah,
Doug.
that seems pretty good.
Yeah,
It's
you
pretty
can move
good.
on to yours, Doug. But
Pretty-
it's just. I mean, it's the Oppenheimer Trinity test. Like, what do you want me to
yeah, I mean
say?
it's pretty good.
It's unbelievable.
This is a scene from a movie nobody has seen. It is the yeah, I don't know how to describe it. It's like driving through the imaginary garden in Master Gardener. Would you say that's an apt description of what happens?
Yeah. No, I didn't think of that.
As long
That's
as
a
you could
really
hint at it
wonderful.
for the
That's a
people
really
who,
wonderful scene.
yeah.
Yeah,
Lots
if
of
you've seen the movie, you know
flowers.
what I'm talking about.
That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
like
As long as you could describe the scene for the people who have seen the movie, then that's good enough. uh, Owen, do you have another pick?
Yeah, the crash in Ferrari. I
That
just
was
think,
my next pick.
yeah, I just think it's terrific. It's kind
Yeah.
of just that it's so emotionally like impactful and like in kind of a way that I mean, the scene's terrific, but just the way that it's built up to that kind of moment. We talked about it earlier in this episode, but just kind of very like when you leave the movie, that's the scene you're thinking about.
That is a perfect segue to my next one, since I'm going to skip over Ferrari. My next scene is a very, very short moment in Priscilla that I did not stop thinking about after the movie ended, which is the scene where Priscilla is putting on makeup before she goes to give birth.
Oh
just
yeah.
just like
Oh,
the
yeah.
most, I after the movie, that scene stuck with me so much. It is like it sums up the entire movie in like 5 seconds. It is so emotional. I just think I think it's like a genius inclusion in the movie from Sofia Coppola. Just unbelievable. It's so good. Doug, do you have another one?
Yeah, because we're not doing endings, right?
Well, you can, but I left them off my list specifically because I knew we would talk about them later.
The "You Can't Wake Up" portion
Oh,
of
okay.
Asteroid City. It's just one scene. It's amazing. It rocks. It
Yeah,
rocks.
that seems awesome. I'm surprised. That's a tough one. That's kind of how I felt. So I'm curious how you feel, because like with the Iron Claw, like I was struggling. So like I was like, this is one of my favorite movies of the year. I don't know how to pick a specific scene from it. I imagine you probably like there's a number of scenes you could have picked from Asteroid City, but that is kind of like, that's a major scene. Owen, do you have another one?
Should I avoid endings or what do we?
You can do whatever you want. The podcast
Okay.
is it's your podcast, but
right.
I'm avoiding them because I think I want to give those attention in like a couple of minutes.
Yeah. Okay.
But
To avoid endings, I guess like all the kills in Thanksgiving. I really, it's tough for me to really pick a a favorite one there. I really like. I guess the one that comes to mind is I really like the entire scene at the parade where the turkey guy gets his head cut off and then he's in the clown
right.
costume and the thing comes through the guy's nose, and I just think that whole like set and it's a really just grand kind of slasher fun. So that's probably my favorite scene from that movie.
Yeah. Were you gonna say something, Doug?
No.
Okay. Another great podcasting.
Yeah,
Another
we're professionals. We rock.
Yeah, another one of my favorite scenes is not like the other movies I just named are very high on my list. This is still pretty high on my list, but I just think it's undeniably one of the great scenes of the year. The massive argument scene in Anatomy of a Fall. Just
Yeah.
it's a long scene and
Oh.
it's great. It's so well acted.
Yeah. It's the best scene in the movie for sure.
Yeah, it's
the best scene in the movie.
definitely worth mentioning. Doug, do you have another pick
for best scene of the year? I think I'll name it. You know what? Because we're talking about it, I'll name a different Ferrari scene. Two cars
right.
For the people
cannot occupy the same spot at the same point in time at this or whatever.
The audio listener is so confused right now.
Because there's that long ass pause. No, yeah, but like basically what happens is after what's his name? The driver doesn't win the turn, right? He fucking pulls everybody in to the meeting and he's talking to Patrick Dempsey and everybody, and he's basically like, you gotta get in my car, you gotta be ready to fucking die. Like that scene is really yeah.
Owen, do you have any more?
Yeah, the for a moment scene with in Wonka where they're milking the trap is my little favorite scene.
Oh yeah,
I think it's so sweet.
That one's great.
It's a very good scene as well.
Yeah. My next one, this is another tough one to describe, but I know you guys are all in agreement that this is just one of the great scenes of the year. The like Killers of the Flower Moon, like afterlife, like you know what I mean, kind of like the vision that happens.
Yeah, after the mom dies, right?
Yeah.
That's what you're talking about. And
and
then she wakes up in the afterlife. I was gonna mention this too. This is
like unreal.
I mean, it's one of those scenes where it's like it happens in the movie, and you're like, oh man, Martin Scorsese still has the sauce, dude.
Yeah,
you're like Jesus Christ,
just one of the great directors.
You know what? I'll name an. I'm out of my notes now. I'll name another fucking Close to the Flower Moon scene. The moment when the fire's happening and Ernest
Yeah.
is looking through the blinds and we see like it looks like a painting, you know. That's a wonderful scene. I mean, it's so
That
powerful.
movie, yeah, I could have picked so many from that movie too. That's the like that one's yeah. Do you have any more on your list, Doug? Or
Yeah, the last one I have on my list is well, the distinction between a scene and a set piece is a little murky here.
yeah, which like that's why we're gonna move on to set pieces after this. That's I kind of
But
whatever, wherever you want to include them.
the play in Beau is Afraid. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like when he
yes.
goes inside of the play, that
Yes.
scene, sensational stuff.
That's a great pick, actually. Owen, how many more do you have? You wanna?
I'm
rattle
out
them
of scenes.
Oh, okay. You guys know how I am. I write too much stuff down. The other ones that I have are when when the youngest brother in the Iron Claw, Mike, he sings at this party and like everybody's just having a good time. It is just like the most heartwarming thing in the movie. Yeah, it rocks. The pacifiction car monologue that I mentioned. I think it's worth mentioning because I haven't mentioned it anywhere else. The chase scene in Spider-Verse, across the Spider-Verse rocks. What else? The car explosion in Bottoms was my favorite part of that movie. And then I guess finally I would mention the scene in Godzilla -1 where the whole community of boats shows up and it's like this big thing as they all just come together and they're gonna take down Godzilla. I was like, that shit fucking rocks.
That was cool.
That got me very excited. Okay, so we're gonna move on to favorite set pieces, which, like Doug said, I mean, the lines are
The
a little bit
distinction can
more,
get a little murky.
we're not gonna be strict in any way as far as we're just gonna name whatever you put here. No need to describe it for the people listening. You get it.
Yeah.
My first one is going to be the nightclub in John Wick 4, the nightclub fight in John Wick 4.
Okay.
Just like
I
probably
mean, you could have picked so many stuff from John Wick 4.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
You could pick a lot from John Wick 4. I think that's probably my favorite scene in the movie. I
see what the fuck Owen's going to say.
Yeah, I really had a lot of fun with that scene. I was like, this just fucking rocks. So that's going to be my John Wick 4 pick. Doug, do you have a pick?
I have, because you just mentioned Godzilla, I'll mention it now. The scene where Godzilla uses his atomic breath for the first time,
like the city,
and and the city blows up. That was definitely a set piece, and that was sensational. That was insane.
That's a great pick, Owen.
Owen hates movies.
Yeah, I don't know. This was difficult for me. A lot of times it's just like, oh, the entire movie. Because like the movies I liked that had cool set pieces, like the whole movie was cool. In terms of like a singular piece, I immediately gravitate to Knock at the Cabin and just the cabin that we're in for like 90% of the movie. I think in terms of just like one location setting, I really just loved that little cabin.
I mean, M. Night's the GOAT of the one location setting.
Yeah. So I mean, it's obviously boosted by the incredible framing of the cabin, but I think in terms of like beneficial to the story and in terms of like my favorite movies, you gotta go with you gotta mention the cabin at least.
Of course. My next one is I think might show up on Doug's list, though I don't know which one he picked here, but the big like car chase in Mission Impossible.
Interesting.
The little car that they get stuck in and go all through the city in.
That's very funny.
I was, I like with Mission Impossible, I was like, there's a few I could pick here. I almost even considered kind of like that whole alleyway fight that just fucking rocks. But yeah, I'll stick with the car chase. Doug, I will throw it. You're smiling, so I don't know if you have a Mission Impossible pickup.
The one from Mission Impossible that I picked was the train.
Right. Yeah.
Because that's like the big set piece in Mission Impossible is this train crash.
Can I put this out there? I specifically wanted to avoid the train because I know how much you like Mission Impossible, and I was like, I mean, Doug's gonna pick the train in Mission Impossible, so I was like, I'll pick a different scene, and that's why I went with the car chase.
No, I picked the train because I was thinking about it, and I'm like, oh, there's Mission Impossible. It's like kind of the movie franchise of set pieces, right?
Right.
And I was like, oh, like the big set piece in this is this big. You haven't seen the movie, Owen, but like it's this big train crash that happens.
Yeah.
It's very cool.
Yeah, that's just so good. Owen, do you have another pick?
Yeah, I mean the outside set pieces. I think all the set pieces, like I said this earlier, like, I think the entirety of Poor Things is like really fascinating. But just
Right.
like when they go outside and they're in these like they have these tall buildings and you have these really cool skies, and I just really like. There's like she's not outside a lot, but I think like my favorite parts of the look is like when she's outside. There's this really like great. I think it's when she's in Portugal, and there's just, I don't know. I really love those. Fascinating like buildings and stuff like that.
Yeah.
My next pick is kind of a minor one, but this is like my favorite part of this entire movie, which is the Scream 6 ladder scene where they put the ladders across, like the ladder across the window, and she's like being
Sure.
chased across the thing to get to the other window. Just I thought that was so good. Like the tension in that scene just fucking rocks. I was like, this is awesome. That was yeah, I think that's my favorite scene in the movie. So
Yeah, no, that's like the most memorable scene in that movie for sure.
yeah, I thought that part was so cool. What's for
The
you, Doug?
the big climactic exorcism in The Pope's Exorcist.
I thought I thought you were about to be like in The Exorcist Believer. I was like, oh, okay. I was like, that's
No. The big climactic
right. In like
action scene.
yeah.
Where then Russell Crowe then gets possessed and like the demons fucking bouncing around from everybody
Yeah.
at the very end. That shit is insane.
Great choice. Great choice. Owen, do you have another one?
The final fight in Aquaman, the new Aquaman movie with this like it's like big like is it ice? It's like this big like blue like castle kind of thing. That kind of rocks.
Yeah.
Really cool. I don't know. I like James Wan's world that he built there, especially the first one. But I think there's some really cool stuff in this new one that's cool. And I like his. I think his it stands out to me because I think just of Wan's kind of he flows through these big set pieces really nicely and has kind of like long takes in the way that the characters kind of scale and kind of run around these big cartoony set pieces.
He's like one of the great directors, James Wan.
Right. Speaking of final things, my next pick is the titular Last Dance in Magic Mike's Last Dance, the big stage dance that they do. Just fucking rocks. Just like I mean, like I could have mentioned it as well in like my favorite scenes, but I think this is like, despite what I said about the movie earlier and that I was a little bit let down by it, I think like this moment alone is like kind of one of the great scenes of the year. It's just so impressive, the choreography, everything Channing Tatum's doing. It just it blew my mind. That's my next pick. Doug, do you have another?
I was thinking the zoo, like the zoo scene in Wonka.
Okay.
Where they're in the zoo, they milk the giraffe, and then they get on the balloons. And while singing the song, I was like, "This is like some beautiful choreography, like a really wonderful like set that they have." I was like, "This rocks! Love this."
Yeah. Owen, do you have any
Yeah,
more left?
I guess I'll do the Wonka one. I really like. I mean, it kind of is where they're like just throwing out all the bells and whistles. Is where he's like opening his shop, like the first time, and where like it all goes to shit. But like just the kind of maximalist kind of set piece there with the big tree and all that stuff. It's really cool. Though I mean the sets in the whole movie are really cool, but that's where it's kind of like again you're throwing out all the tricks there and showing like the possible what would a candy shop look like in the future because obviously it doesn't go planned. But
Yeah. I have the like I guess to describe it, the home invasion kind of scene in The Killer, where he fights the guy in The Killer when he breaks into, the one with the dog, and then he does the big fight.
The Florida scene. Yeah,
the big fight in The Killer. That scene fucking rocks. They destroy that entire house. Not literally, but the inside of the house. It's very fucking cool. That's my next pick.
I have the maze in Saltburn.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm joking.
Okay. Do you not have any picks left?
No, I was kind of like running out of stuff. I was like,
Okay.
oh, I didn't write anything else down. I think I will say I'll shout this out. This isn't like a specific scene or like one moment from it, but the set in Full River Red, which is the Zhang Yimou film that came out this year, takes place in ancient China. I was watching it and I'm like, I am so confused as to what the fuck is happening in terms of like how they filmed this, because like it takes place all in like this one area, but I'm like, it's like the set is like the size of fucking town. It feels massive. Yeah. Anyways,
Owen, do you have any left on your list?
Well, I thought when Doug was talking about the maze, I really like the maze in Dungeons and Dragons and that whole like big arena set piece. I like all the set pieces I really liked in that movie. I like the fun like kind of fantasy.
Yeah, I should have picked something from Dungeons and Dragons.
It's
really hard to pick like favorite kind of singular set pieces, and especially like something like as big as something like that.
Yeah, I don't have too many left. I mean, another one for me, I could have picked like pretty much all of the wrestling scenes in the Iron Claw. I guess if I had to pick one, like just to point out a specific scene, just for the sake of it, the Ric Flair versus Zac Efron fight would probably be the choice there. And then another one I want to mention, not the most extravagant set, but just because of what happens there, the football field in Bottoms, just everything that goes on at the ending of that movie. Doug doesn't like the movie, so he's going to wave it off, but it's a good scene. So, what can you do? We're going to move on to our favorite supporting characters, which like for Doug is just kind of our favorite guy category, because Doug doesn't like women. He just wanted this to be about guys.
Well, no, because like I don't know. Let's just get into it. Let's get into it.
Context. It's like, it's like you like point at the screen and you're like, that's a cool guy. Like, it's like, just like, not like, it's not like your second lead or whatever. It's like, small, like one of the lesser characters that is just like awesome. Anyway, I will get us started with, gonna fucking butcher this name. Reggae Jean Page in Dungeons and Dragons, who shows up for a little section around the middle of the movie, and is just the most charming person ever. Like, I didn't watch Bridgerton, but like I saw this and I was like, oh, I get it now. Like, I get why everybody's obsessed with him. He's like so likable, and he's doing like a really funny performance because of the type of character he is. But he shows up and just like makes that whole section of the movie so fun. Doug, your first pick?
It can go so many directions. There's so many guys. I'm gonna go
down.
I do have him written down. Do I?
It's like building anticipation when he could just be looking at his list.
What's his name? Patrick Dempsey in Ferrari.
Right.
What a guy. I mean, he's just like, he doesn't do anything. He doesn't do a whole lot, but he's just there. He wins the race.
He does win the race. Owen, do you have another pick?
Not even like the guy of the year, like the guy of like ever is Tom Conti as Albert Einstein.
I didn't even think about that. Damn, that's such a good pick.
Kind of like the guy of all time. He just shows up. Like I sent this GIF yesterday to Doug, but the scene where the car like drives away and he just like appears out of like the shadows, and then he goes to talk to Oppenheimer. It's just like, it's terrific. I think he's so fun. And the movie is so fascinating to me. And he's one of the reasons why. He's such an interesting performance that's like kind of bizarrely captivating in terms of like, he's just playing Albert Einstein. Like, it's not like something that would normally be very fascinating, but the way that it's, shot, edited, and his performance is just very bizarre, but also like, I just want more of it,
Yeah. My next pick is Jake Weary, who plays Dwayne in How to Blow Up a Pipeline. Just every time he wasn't on the screen, I was like, I want this guy back. He's so cool. Like, you could pick multiple people from that movie since they all kind of share the same amount of screen time. But But yeah, when he's gone, I'm just like, bring this guy back. He's so awesome. Doug, your next pick.
Gerard Carmichael in Poor Things.
Right. That's not his name though, but
I don't know what's his name. Do you know his name? in Poor
I
Things?
mean his name is Gerard, not Gerard. But
Oh, what?
Jerrod would be
Oh,
Gerard.
you're right. It is Gerard. Mr. Carmichael in Poor Things
Right.
is like what a guy, one of my favorite guys. When he shows up in the movie, I just watched Poor Things last night, and I'm like, oh my god, this is my guy.
Yeah. Owen.
Jim Carter in Wonka, who plays Abacus Crunch, who's like the leader of
Right.
the downstairs. All-time voice. I just think he is like perfect for this. The only other thing I've seen him in is my parents used to like really be obsessed with like Downton Abbey. So like I would randomly just see him like on my TV, but he just has like a very cool like presence, and he's just like a jolly old man in this movie with like a really cool voice.
Yeah.
That he rocks.
My next pick is in a movie that, people don't love all that much, and a really annoying movie for a lot of people, but I think he's just the funniest guy in it. Michael Cera and Barbie, who is just hilarious every time he shows up. That was my favorite part of the movie. I think he's so good. Doug, your next pick.
Donnie Yen in John Wick
Right.
Chapter 4.
I wasn't sure who you were gonna pick from John Wick 4 because that's kind of a movie full of these
There's
guys.
full of guys in that one. I could also say Rina Sawayama is probably my runner-up for guy in John Wick Chapter 4.
Do you know the name of the guy who's kind of like the guy that like tracks him down, the guy with the dog? That guy rocks. Like
I
that
think
guy's awesome.
is that Clancy Brown? Is that his name?
That's
No.
Clancy Brown is a 90-year-old man.
Yeah,
He's
what's
like,
I'm on the thing.
he's like a less, he's probably lower on the cast list, but that guy.
Yeah, his name's Shamir Anderson. He's really good.
He's awesome.
Also, Shamir's okay. Just to get all the John Wick Chapter 4 guys out of the way, Scott Atkins.
Yeah, Scott Atkins is on my list. So
okay.
That's a great choice. Owen, do you have another pick?
Yeah, Ray Fisher as Blood Axe in Rebel Moon.
Okay.
Awesome. He's not like a big part of the movie. He kind of shows up in like the third, like late second act. But like all time, like Ray Fisher, he was in the Justice League like movie as Cyborg, but most of his work is on the stage. He's a very like Shakespearean actor, and he gets to kind of use his like theater kind of presence in this movie. It's a very like theatrical performance, which and it's really it kind of stands out for me as like the coolest performance in the entire movie. And he kind of just comes in and takes the entire screen, which is really cool.
My next pick is Catherine Hunter in Poor Things, which I already mentioned before. But
I really love her as well.
Yeah, she's great. Doug, do you have any other picks?
Yeah, I was gonna say Richard Richard Ayoade.
I think it's Richard Ayoade.
Ayoade. That's a weird last name. I don't know. It was fucking me up. Obviously,
I've heard
great guy.
say Richard Ayoade, which is why
him in the Wes Anderson shorts, specifically him in Henry Sugar, where he doesn't really have a lot of lines, but he's like in a lot of shots, just like next to Dev Patel. He's like, I love this guy.
Yeah, that's an awesome one. Owen, do you have any other picks?
Yeah, Addison Rae and Thanksgiving. So much fun. I don't know.
That should have been on the top of your list.
Yeah, I don't know. I just kind of I didn't really write these down. I just kind of pop them off my head.
Yeah,
she's just so much fun to watch. Really not like but she's she's in the main group, but she's not like the main character or anything. But she's just so much fun to kind of just watch on screen.
Yeah. My next pick, another comedic performance. Marshawn Lynch in Bottoms.
Oh yes,
fucking hilarious. He should just be in so many comedies. Like he's just like good at being funny. Like I don't know. I hope he shows up in more movies. He's awesome. Doug, do you have any picks left?
No, I think I'm satisfied with where we're at.
Owen, anything?
I mean, we can talk about like a lot of people in Oppenheimer. I mean, Josh Hartnett and Jason Clarke are really like fun. I don't know. I really like this. That's such a cool ensemble cast. And there's so many guys that kind of just come in for like 2 minutes that I just kind of be like,
I do want
wait,
to throw
what's
out
his name?
my Thanksgiving pick, which is Joe
Okay.
Delfin as McCarty. in
yes,
Thanksgiving, who is
I love
so
him
fun as
so
like
much.
the peaked in
Those are
high school neighborhood drug dealer.
Addison Rae and Joe Delfin are those two people. Like, I just want more of them in the sequel because
Yeah,
he's so much fun, and
yeah,
I like to see him in like his Twitter bio. Like, I think he changed it, but for a while it was like "Call me James Cameron," and I just think he should be in like, he'd be so cool as like one of those like just like a dickhead like army guy, or like one of the like the guys trying to kill the Na'vi in like an Avatar movie or something. Like, I don't know, he's really fun.
Are you ready to move on, Doug, or did you have a
Well,
stroke?
Any more
sorry,
guys?
I just wanted to name a couple more guys real quick.
As many guys as you want. That's what we're doing.
I want to name Ty Mitchell from Killers of the Flower Moon.
Okay.
Fucking awesome guy. And do you remember his name, Owen? The other guy from Killers of the Flower Moon, that with the face.
Oh, I know what you're talking. Yeah, I know.
Oh,
forgot his name.
He's definitely lower on the cast list.
Yeah.
That's a good pick.
But like, okay, for the audience listening at home, that doesn't know what I'm talking about. He's like the evil guy who's basically like, when the person's like, oh, like you're saying that you're gonna kill your
Ty
parents.
Mitchell. Ty Mitchell. Oh wait, no, Ty Mitchell's who you named already, right?
Louis, cancel me. Louis.
Louis Cancel. Yeah, Ty Mitchell and Louis Cancel are two fucking all-time guys in Killers of the Flower Moon.
There's a couple of guys you can name for. I mean, even like when Brendan Fraser shows up in Killers of the Flower Moon.
Brendan Fraser's also a guy. I love him too. He's one of my favorite guys.
You could pick a lot of guys in Killers of the Flower Moon.
Brendan Fraser in Killers of the Flower Moon is so awesome because he shows up and he's like, I have not had the opportunity to speak to my clients.
Okay, we're gonna move on to another category that we were referencing before, which is best endings of the year. A lot of, I mean, I'll just say most of my favorite movies are the ones that show up here for me, because my favorite movies have great endings. But if I had to pick my favorite ending of the year, it's probably Past Lives. I mean, it's just it's just an unbelievable scene. Like all of the emotion that you've built up throughout the length of the movie, just fucking it just destroys you, dude. It's so good. It's unbelievable. I don't even know how to talk about that scene. It's so good.
It is really sensational. It's like one of the biggest, it's crazy that that's their first movie, and that's how she ended it.
Even the build up, like the tension between them when they're looking at each other before the emotional. I'm like, this is just, it couldn't have been better. That's my favorite ending of the year. Doug, your favorite ending of the year?
My favorite ending of the year is the ending of Poison, the Wes Anderson short. Which is, I don't think anybody was really expecting this to get brought up that much, but the ending to Poison is so, I mean, when I watched it, I was like I was star stunned. I was like, these images, and like the emotionality of the fucking picture, I'm like, this is what cinema's all about, dude.
Yeah,
that's a great choice. Owen, what's your favorite ending of the year?
Yeah, I mentioned Close Your Eyes earlier. So I'll just do, I'll say Knock at the Cabin as that whole final,
that's in my...
the entire sacrifice. I mean, it's kind of a long ending where you have the sacrifice scene, and then they go out, and the whole the music in the car that'll close out is really great.
Yeah. My next favorite, which is, I mean, this is neck and neck with Past Lives. I'm gonna try to describe this in a way that doesn't spoil it, because not only have both of you not seen it, but it's also just a very new movie. The ending to The Iron Claw, which is, it's a true story, but for people who go into the movie unprepared, it is going to affect them massively. The ending is so emotional. Zac Efron is like unbelievable. I think maybe his moment in the ending might be my favorite acting moment of like the entire year. Like, it's insane. And it is, like I said, the Past Lives ending wrecks you. The Iron Claw ending also just will destroy you. It's unbelievable. Doug, your next one?
I want to name Beau's Afraid. The ending of Beau's Afraid. And I mean, like the very end, all the way up to through the credits. It's like kind of one scene. That I don't know if I've thought about many scenes more than that. What happens in that? It's very, very unique, very emotionally resonant for me, for sure.
That's a great choice. Owen, do you have another pick?
Oh, I just kind of blanked. Wait, hold on. I really like. I mean, the May December ending. I like the.
Right.
I think I hasn't seen it, but it's very like It reminds me of. There's one De Palma that I'm blanking on. That is really reminiscent of that scene. That I really like.
Yeah. My
don't know
next
why.
pick is probably if you were gonna ask the public what the best ending of the year is, they'd say the ending of Oppenheimer.
Yeah, I mean,
Just, I
for good
like
reason.
unbelievable ending to my favorite movie of the year. I guess the other two I just kind of value a little bit more emotionally, but the ending of Oppenheimer is just on like, well, it's kind of the trend of bringing up Oppenheimer in any of these categories. Like, what more can I say? It's just great. Doug, do you have any other picks?
Yeah, I don't know how many you want to list off, but I have two more that I would say are like my favorite, like one of my favorite endings.
I have two more pretty significant ones. Yeah.
Okay, I have a I want to say Asteroid City,
Right.
which people have kind of talked about. People have talked about the last two that I have at length. Actually, they're both very popular endings to brought up. But the ending of Asteroid City, when he meets the other actress through the very end, it's brings tears to the eyes of a grown man. Like
Right. Right. Owen, do you have any left on your list?
Yeah, the Holdovers. I
Right.
really.
That's
It's
one of
just
my
it's
honorable
a
mentions.
really sweet ending there.
Yeah.
And
That's
also,
such
I
a
mean,
good
when Saltburn ended, I was really happy too. So that's probably a good middle ground.
Another one that I want to mention is just how bold the ending to Killers of the Flower Moon is. Just an unbelievable choice from Scorsese, which like maybe doesn't work for some people,
that's
but really works for me.
that was the
Um,
last one I had too, was Killers of
yeah,
the Flower Moon ending.
it's just like I don't know. I mean, he rocks. We talked about it, but like Scorsese rocks. He still has
For
Oh
it.
yeah.
Like,
sure, the
so
boldest ending of the year, considering
yeah,
who did it and like how big of a production it was. Like,
right. Yeah, it's unbelievable. So that's your last one, Doug.
can you believe that some people? Yeah, that's my last one. Can you believe that some people called the Killers of the Flower Moon ending hacky?
I
I
don't know.
mean, what
I
are we
can
Um,
doing?
believe it.
I can believe it, but
It's
I
my.
don't
I think it's my
agree
favorite
with
scene in
it.
that movie, though.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
agree with it, but I can believe it. The last one I want to mention is the ending to the movie that you guys haven't seen, Pacifiction, which is just I mean the whole movie is slowly building up to something, and that something is only confirmed in the very final seconds of the movie, and the way that it is executed is unbelievable. We could go through these quickly. This is just we could honestly just list these off if you want, but the next category is funniest movies of the year. Just the movies that made us laugh the most. I for my taste, Bottoms was the funniest movie I watched this year. I had such a great time. I thought it was hilarious. Doug, what's the movie that made you laugh the most?
Beau's Afraid. It's the funniest
Yeah,
movie of the year for me,
yeah.
for sure.
Owen, do you have a funniest movie of the year?
I had trouble with this. Because
It's kind of
like,
hard to weigh them a little bit.
yeah, I don't know.
We also, I mean,
I
we don't talk a lot about comedies, like straight comedies on the
Yeah.
pod
Sure.
or anything.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying because it's like for me, like Bottoms was the funniest. It's also like a straight up comedy, and it's like, how do
It's
you weigh that against a movie that's not
probably
primarily a comedy but
bottoms.
still really
It's
funny?
probably bottoms for me too, just because like that's my favorite, like it's just straight comedy of the year.
Right. Well, it's not
But
a very
there's
straight
definitely
comedy, but yeah.
okay, all right, okay,
That's
buddy,
a
all
knee
right.
Sorry.
slapper, buddy.
I'm
Okay,
sorry.
buddy.
I needed one dad joke in the pod.
Okay.
Um, No, that's a good pick. Yeah. My next one is The Holdovers. Just like kind of the opposite of Bottoms, where it's just like a bunch of like
Yeah,
witty
that's a
things where you're
very
like, oh,
straight. That's a
that's
very straight comedy.
yeah. It's just so funny. Doug, do you have another pick?
Yeah, I guess like Asteroid City is very
Right.
funny.
That's on my list as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit lower, but yeah, there's so many. I mean, Asteroid City might have the funniest moment of the year. The little like the little alien coming down, the way that my theater laughed during that, like that's so fun. I mean, it's
Yeah.
so fun.
Um,
Owen.
Owen, do you have another movie you wanted to mention, Owen?
Yeah, Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Oh,
think
right,
it's
of course,
really
of course,
good.
of course, of course.
Yeah. The only other like I guess pure comedy I have is Anyone But You. Like that just, like I said before, surprisingly hilarious. Doug, do you have any other picks?
Yeah,
I haven't
I only
decided.
had 3 movies that were in contention for this, and the last one is Poor Things, which I thought
Yeah,
was
that's on
just
my list as
really
well. Yeah.
hilarious.
Yeah, I also had Poor Thing.
Yeah, Poor Things is coming up next for me. The only other one I want to mention is Dungeons and Dragons again, which
Oh,
is,
yeah, for sure.
very both fun and funny. Now we've got another one that we could kind of go through these pretty quickly, but favorite movies about a real person or people or a true story. My number one pick is obviously my favorite movie of the year, Oppenheimer. It's a true story and it's my favorite movie, so that's a no-brainer. Doug, what is your favorite?
Well, so when I originally pitched this, I was
Doug
pitching
wanted
it
it to be a movie about. Doug wanted the category specifically to be about like,
real guy.
yeah, because
Um,
Doug has this obsession with only talking about men on the podcast, like I mentioned
no,
earlier. So he wanted this to be a movie
I
about a real guy, so that he could compare Oppenheimer and Ferrari. But instead,
yes,
we
that's
have
what I was trying to do. I
expanded
was
it.
trying to make a
Yes,
category to compare Oppenheimer and Ferrari, but now you've renamed it to more like I guess I have to say Colors of the Flower Moon.
sure.
Even though
We
that's
could
not
just
really
talk
a
about
movie
both at
about
the
a real
same
guy.
time, though. You can. That is a movie about a real guy. It's actually a movie about several real guys,
Uh,
but
no, you know what I mean. Well, it's not
sure.
like
You can also just talk about Ferrari now if you want. The stage is yours. Tell us about how
Ferrari.
Adam Driver is better than Cillian Murphy or something along those lines.
Well, I'll
well,
say
also
that.
Maestro. I mean, Maestro's better than Oppenheimer too.
Okay. A better movie or a better performance or
Better
both?
both.
Okay.
Yikes.
That's certainly an opinion that people
No,
listening
I don't know if I
disagree
believe
with,
that actually. I don't know if I believe that at all.
yeah, fair enough.
That was
Owen, what's your favorite true story movie of the year?
Ferrari. It's either Ferrari or Wonka. I don't know. I just those are the real guys that exist. Totally.
Was is there do we have to is this like telling a kid that Santa doesn't exist or is
What?
what
what was it? What?
um another movie that I want to mention, which I've mentioned already, is The Iron Claw, based on a true story of a bunch of people. And I also had Ferrari on my list,
Wait,
and I
those
guess
guys are real?
the last one I will put out there for my list. I only wrote 5 down. The last one I'll put out there is Priscilla. Doug, do you
That's
have
not a
any
real
others
guy.
that you? There is a real guy in it. There's also a real woman at
Jacob
the lead.
Elordi.
Yeah, Doug, do you have any other true stories you want to mention?
Yeah, Ferrari.
Right.
And
Wait.
the Pope's Exorcist.
Yeah, I was about to say that. The fucking Pope's Exorcist.
Real.
He's real.
Yeah,
Owen, do you have
it
any
is
left
about a
on your
real
list,
guy.
or is that do we cross them all off?
Padre Pio.
Oh,
Okay, that's a
I
real guy
didn't know that
too.
was a true story.
Yeah.
It's
Well, a real guy and true story aren't the same thing.
Right, sure. Yeah. Based on a real guy, whatever. The category is broad.
The Pope's Exorcist.
Right, same thing.
Real story.
We're going to talk about now our favorite theater experiences of the year. We went to the
Oh,
movies
right.
a lot this year. My favorite, number one, seeing Oppenheimer on a big fat screen. Obviously, nothing compares this year. That was my favorite trip to the theaters I took this year. Doug, what was your favorite trip to the movies you had?
Honestly, it was seeing Mission Impossible in IMAX with my friend. That was really fun. I mean, I was like, because my friend's a big Mission Impossible fan. We like had a whole plan. We like drove out to go like to a bigger, more special IMAX to see it opening weekend. It was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great choice. Owen, what was your favorite trip to the movies?
It's either two of the movies that I really love that I saw early. It's always fun to see something, early. Also, I think I'll go Knock at the Cabin just because it's my favorite movie of the year.
Right.
And just seeing that before everyone and just kind of having that kind of excitement. And, I remember just like running across the city, and kind of getting there like right on time and being like in the third row or something. And just like, it just, I think all my favorite experiences. It's tough to be like, oh, my favorite experience is like when I saw a bad movie. You know, it's like all my
Sure,
favorite
yeah.
experiences are really just gonna be like my favorite movies of the year.
I
But
think I think
it's
for me,
hard.
there's like specific things that kind of like even if like rather than picking because I wrote 5 down, rather than picking my
Yeah.
5 favorite movies, I picked
No,
like
I don't. It's not always.
experiences that really
It's
kind of
not gonna
like
be. It's not
stood
gonna be
out.
straight like that. I do think it
Yeah.
tends to be like that though, and I think Knock at the Cabin. It's kind of a combination of like it's my favorite movie of the year, and I got to see it early, and it was
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Another one for me, just like the other to go along with Oppenheimer, like Doug mentioned before, the two like big spectacle kind of things that had to be seen on the big screen, Killers of the Flower Moon. I mean, seeing that on a big screen as well was just an unreal experience. So that's my next pick. Doug, do you have more? Or did you just have your one?
I just have one other one, and it was seeing Beau's Afraid
Right.
with some of my friends for the second time was really awesome too.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, those it's just those two. I saw
Oh,
The
and
Flash in what is it, 4DX?
I was about to
Uh,
say, why are you like? I was like, The Flash,
yeah, I saw The Flash in 4DX. That was cool,
and
I
that was one
guess.
of your favorite experiences.
It was fun. I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
the seat was like moving around and stuff. I was like, "Ooh."
Right. But if you saw any other movie, that would have been a better experience.
Oh yeah, Beau's Afraid in 4DX.
Right.
They force you to have a heart attack.
Oh, no. Owen, do you have any others on your list?
Yeah, I mean, I think seeing Thanksgiving early with like a packed crowd too was really fun. It's just like a
Yeah.
really reactionary crowd where everyone's kind of laughing,
Oh,
reacting to like the scares and stuff.
Owen, didn't you see Break this year in theaters?
Oh, is that count? Yeah. Oh, I
I
guess
mean,
I forgot about that too because I'm not
Yeah.
yeah.
thinking about it as a really.
My
Yeah, that's an all-time theater experience to see.
Skinamarink would have been like number one on my list. The reason why I didn't include it on my list is because, like, for me, I totally like did everything it was supposed to. Like, my friend and I were terrified, but there were people in like the front rows of the theater that I heard laughing the entire time and making fun of it. And that
Yeah.
is what kept it from being my favorite theater
Yeah.
experience
No, I
of the year
remember
because I
we
was like,
talked
damn, these
about
people
this.
are not as into
Um,
this as I am. But like, seeing it in the big dark theater, I was like, "This is fucking
Yeah. I kind
terrifying."
of forgot about it because it was like January, and also we're not. I wasn't counting it as this year's
Yeah,
release, but I had a really nice crowd. It was. I remember just like everyone kind of being locked in, and I
yeah,
wanted to go to the bathroom at like the last like 10 minutes, 20 minutes because I've seen it before and whatever. And I actually like just didn't want to get up because everyone was just so fucking like locked in and like just like in their seat, scared shitless that I felt bad about like getting up, going across other people. So that was just
yeah,
a really cool like atmosphere. It's always cool seeing it with like a really engaged crowd. Like I remember seeing like Licorice Pizza early, and everyone. It's special like when everyone there wants to be there. You know, it's a different
yeah. That's
feel
what I
of
wish I
like
had with Skinamarink, where it's like like
yeah,
these
yeah.
people came here and just didn't.
It's a different feel than like just like a random showing and people are like, oh, I guess we'll see this. Then like because all especially with those early ones too, of or like but like a special one, like even like Skinamarink too, like it's a special night. Everyone who there is like wanting to be there. Like everyone is so excited and everyone is like giving the screen like their entire attention. It's a
Yeah,
really special like communal experience that
that's what it's
you
gonna be like when we go see.
most time you don't get that.
That's what it's gonna be like when we
Yeah,
all see Michael
not always.
at the world premiere
That's
together.
true.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
true.
yeah.
I'll just rattle off my other three if you guys don't have any others. Dungeons and Dragons was like the most fun I've had in a theater. I think all of the times that I saw Bottoms was in a packed theater and everybody was
Yeah.
laughing, which made it very fun. And then the final one, like I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, experiencing what I did during Ferrari was what made it definitely a great
Yeah.
visit.
It's like three nine
Okay,
11.
for this next category, I didn't really prep almost anything for this category because I just don't really. I'm sure I have them, but our hottest takes of our hottest movie
Oh
takes of
right, I
the
was like, what
year.
is
If
left?
you guys have hot takes, like I have like stupid ones because I just don't
Yeah.
really like. I'm sure they exist, but I couldn't really like think of anything to like really stir the pot. One of the ones I wrote down just to get us started, I guess, is that for me, a lot of people probably don't agree with this. Asteroid City is my favorite Wes Anderson movie I've seen, which I know is not the case for a lot of people who have seen Wes Anderson movies. So I guess that's like my first hot take. I think Asteroid City is his best movie that I've seen. Doug, do you have a hot take that you want to throw out there?
I mean, I agree with that. I don't know how hot of a take that is. I guess
think it's,
I have
you
my hot
Small.
take is that Across the Spider-Verse is fine.
sure, yeah.
It's a totally okay movie.
I'm surprised that's
Yeah.
your
I'll
like, big
second
one.
that.
do you have an original one, Owen, or do you?
Yeah, Past Lives is worse.
Right, yeah, that's
Past Lives is not good. That's a
Yeah.
hot take. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I don't really have any other. The only other thing that I like already mentioned in a video that bothers me is kind of the whole like reception of the third Guardians of the Galaxy movie, where like people were
Oh, I
kind of,
forgot.
That
like,
movie's bad too.
like,
That movie's bad. Yeah,
where
can
people
that be
were
our hot
talking
take? That
about it,
movie's
like
fucking
it was
bad.
like, yeah, my hot take really is just that it's not all that much different than all the other MCU movies, and it's weird that people kind of hyped it up like it's one of these like great movies of the year when it's just like
Michael
a
Mann
normal
said,
MCU.
I like the
mean-
first one. I like the second one. I
Right.
don't care about that third one.
Yeah, so that's my other like real hot take, I guess. Doug, do you have any others that you want to throw out?
Guardians of the Galaxy 3, not even just that it's like, oh, it's like not unique. It's like it's worse than the other Guardians of the Galaxy movies.
Yeah, I mean, I still think, to me, the second one is my favorite. I think the second one's definitely better than the third.
like I don't. It's like
The second
it's like
one's probably my favorite Marvel movie, but I don't like it either.
Right.
I just really like that stupid scene where he tells Chris Pratt that he put a tumor in his mom's head. I think about that scene a lot. I don't know why. I just think it's hilarious.
Yeah.
I have the hot take that Wes Anderson has solidified himself as the great working American auteur this year.
Interesting. The great working American auteur. Let me
Yeah.
process that for a second. Like, out of anybody working right now,
Yeah, it's him. He's the great
Interesting.
working American auteur right now.
the same. Yeah, no, that's sure.
The same America we live in.
Right. Okay. Owen, do you have any other
I
ones?
don't like I didn't like John Wick 4, but like
You didn't like which? Oh, John Wick 4. Okay. Are your hot takes just movies that you didn't like that everybody else did? 'Cause that's just like an Owen thing.
yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. Knock at Cabin's my number one. Like, I don't know.
Right. Yeah, I guess that's a hot thing. The only other thing I like
We can
wrote
go hot either
down-
directions. I don't know what you want.
Yeah, the only other thing I like really wrote down that I think is worth mentioning is kind of like, because of how many people just hated the movie, that upset me, is that like for me, Skinamarink is the best horror movie of the year. I think that's probably a hot take for a lot of people, because that's probably a lot of people's
Yeah,
least
'cause a lot of
favorite
people
horror
are
movie of the
bitches.
year. Yeah, that's my hot take. Skinamarink's the best horror movie we got this year. Unless, like, if you want to whatever, if you want to define Knock at the Cabin as a horror movie, then
Yeah,
you could
I
say it,
wouldn't.
but,
I
like,
don't really know if I'd count it. Like, it's like, I don't know.
yeah.
Horror is kind of a weird thing. It's like, if I'm talking straight horror, it's Skinamarink. But like as a movie,
Yeah.
it's like whatever.
So we want to move on to our final category?
Yeah.
Okay. Last category: who won 2023? Not just people, but concepts, whatever the fuck we want to throw out there. I'll get us started. I will stick with an actor. Io Adebari, who is in a lot
Great
of
answer.
stuff. I mean, just I don't really know that you can. It might even just be like an objective thing. Like, she's in like 4 or 5 movies this year
Yeah,
that were all well received,
and TV shows, and yeah,
yeah,
great
and
answer.
she's also the star of The Bear. I mean, it's just, like, nobody has been able to do as much, and she's just like loved by the public on the internet as well. I mean, she's a popular Letterboxd user even. Like, she's just she's just having a great year. So that's my
She didn't like
first who won
Saltburn.
2023. Yeah, she didn't like Saltburn. Doug, who won the year for you? Give us one of the winners of the year.
Wes Anderson.
Real, yeah.
Wes Anderson won the year.
Yeah. And who won? Give us another winner.
Patrick Dempsey.
There we go, buddy. I was about to say it. Yeah, of course. I mean, people forget. Sexiest man of the year.
He's the killer in Thanksgiving, and he drove his own car in Ferrari.
Yeah, I mean, come on. He's fucking winning, bro. Like,
that shit rocks.
My other, like, just straight up actor, I guess, is not like somebody new, but just I think somebody who won because of how popular they got this year, Jacob Elordi.
Lordy.
kind of like
Yeah, of course.
ascended to a different level of stardom. Like he is just now, one of the big Hollywood stars.
Yeah.
Doug, do you have another winner?
Yeah, I was gonna throw out Emma Stone. I think is a winner this year. Emma
Real.
Stone really kind of has broken out and taken the next step in her career. Like really leveled up.
Yeah. So not when she won the Oscar for Best Actress, but now she's taking the next step in her career.
We're on a new level.
Yeah, well, she wasn't in a Yorgos movie and a Nathan Fielder TV show when she won the Oscar. So
Sure. Yeah. No, fair enough. Fair enough. Owen, do you have another winner?
No.
That's Patrick Dempsey. Yeah,
I'm gonna the ones I have remaining are kind of not people, but rather ideas or groups, whatever. My next one is just people who hate the MCU. Just an awful year for the MCU. So we won.
We're gonna be winners for the next year too.
Right. Yeah. Like
we're going
just
back to back.
Just a massive year for people who are rooting on the downfall of the MCU. Doug, do you have any other winners, or should I just rattle off the rest of them?
Tom Cruise is also a winner this year.
The only other ones I have are like the product advertisement movies, like Barbie, Tetris, Air, whatever. And then I have
Gran Turismo.
I have wives in biopics. Just a lot of true story movies with like big, like lots of wives in those movies.
Big wives.
Anyway, long episode for everybody, but we're gonna wrap it up there. Obviously no news or anything because the episode is 3 hours long, but as usual, leave feedback, like, comment, subscribe on YouTube, rate us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Follow our Twitter, all that stuff. We've got a lot planned for this year, kind of, and this is a good way to start it by recapping last year. And you can join us next week for episode 48, where we talk about our most anticipated movies of
look into the future
2024. Yeah. So we'll see everybody next week.